We'll call the January 16th board meeting of Rush Lake Watershed Restoration to order. Called to order at 7:03. In attendance at tonight's meeting are all board members except for Kevin Fritz, who did call me to say he was missing tonight, and also two audience members. I circulated the materials electronically and paper where online was not possible, and if anybody has any comments or anything about that, we can change things up. I know Mark, we talked about an email that wasn't in effect as much, so we'll fix that up. So I guess the agenda, 7 items, a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started. First up, the minutes of the October 24th board meeting.
Move to accept the minutes.
A second.
There's a motion made and seconded by Art and Ron to accept the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstain? The minutes are accepted unanimously. Okay. Second agenda item, the treasurer's report. I circulated to the board members the treasurer's report, which is the same format as what I provided at the last meeting. Overall change is net reduction in cash, which makes sense given our lake management planning project in process. We collected both receivables that were on hand at 9:30. We paid State Lab of Hygiene and Stantec's project consulting, as well as ALS Printing's bills for the second and third mailer. And the result of that activity gives us an ending cash balance in our unrestricted account of $9,971.17. Restricted cash pertinent to the 2019 Lake Management Planning Project of $5,771.38. Restricted cash towards the 2020 Lake Management Planning Project of $550 for a total cash balance of $16,112.55. At year end, we have a receivable of $3,462.04, which coincides with an invoice that we've received from Stantec that pertains to the DNR Small Grants Program for invasive Phragmites mapping on Rush Lake. So that's going to be a in and out. And we also have a DNR grant receivable of $6,250 from the 2019 grant planning project that will be released once we complete the 2019 phase 1 of our project. And we have 2 pledges towards the 2020 grant pledge that were from individuals beyond the original towns, the town commitment letters of $1,500 for a total receivables of $11,212.04. Year-end accounts and accrued payables of $6,327.46 is comprised of the 2 Stantec invoices that are referenced above from the Lake Management Planning Project and the Phragmites mapping project, but also $1,295 from UW Stevens Point and their sediment and seed bank studies. This concludes my prepared remarks on the treasurer's report.
Move to accept.
Second.
Arch made a motion to accept, as well as a second by Seth. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor of accepting the treasurer's report, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? The treasurer's report is accepted unanimously. Okay, board member elections. This is an item that we revisited last year where everybody was put on a ballot, and now we have staggered terms. And now that we have that, we have fewer people to consider. But for the sake of confidentiality or whatever, prepared ballots, we choose to use those tonight. The town appointments are Ron Vaughn from the town of Nepieskin, Gary Page from the town of Ripon, Mark Davis from the town of Utica. Those three are all for 3-year terms ending January 2023. Also, we have an at-large seat that's open, that's currently occupied by Nancy Gleisner. If Nancy chooses or would like to fill that again, that would be a 2-year term. Also, there's an option to write in or leave the seat vacant on here. So, what would the board like to do about the town nominations? Use the ballot? Something else?
Can we do those by motion, or do we have to use the ballots?
There's no requirement to use the ballot.
As long as the totals are recorded.
Is it Nancy wish to fill them?
What, Mark?
You wish to fill the vacant at large?
Yes.
Yes. Does everybody here wish to remain in their position?
I do.
All right.
Make a motion that they're all unanimously accepted by the voting membership. Is that possible?
Second. Casting maybe.
Motion made and seconded for unanimous acceptance of the nominees and Nancy Gleisner as at large. Is that a good?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. Unanimous acceptance of the town nominees as well as Nancy Gleisner for the at-large seat. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, thank you. Who seconded that? Art seconded. Okay, next, officer elections. The prior year, we had Ron as the vice president, Todd as the secretary, and me as the president and treasurer.
I make a motion to leave those officers in place.
If they're still willing.
Exactly. Any comments by any of the existing and soon-to-be appointed new officers that might not want to continue in their positions?
Any from you, Ron?
No.
No? Okay. I have one. I accept, but I need to make something clear. While I wish to contribute to Rush Lake watershed restoration, I don't want to be the president or treasurer anymore. I understand that with the lake management planning project in progress, my departing from these roles at this time could be damaging to the project and the prospects of implementing it. Going forward, I will be more selective with my contributions. Next year, I welcome a new president and treasurer with open arms. Similarly, while my director term lasts 2 more years, I also welcome the notion of resigning so that the town of Nepieskin can appoint a new director in my place. There are many reasons for how I come to this decision, but the most important is so that I can contribute more to my family. And this includes an increase in meaningful time spent with them, but also the pursuit of gainful employment. I've been told that generally lake improvements only happen when there are 1 or 2 dedicated volunteers. Perhaps this is true for ordinary lakes, but for Rush Lake, I reject this notion completely. Rush Lake's prospects can't hinge on 1 or 2 volunteers. It's a state-owned public lake that's a unique feature of Wisconsin's landscape and is deserving of the care and concern of many organizations and individuals. So what's important now is how the directors, towns, and other governmental bodies partner organizations, and Rush Lake supporters wish to participate going forward. I will be documenting all the functions that are currently performed in my position as a volunteer president, treasurer, and director, as well as identifying a path forward on transitioning them. I look forward to working with everybody to ensure that Rush Lake receives a broad team of individuals and organizations with diverse talents and capabilities who together support Rush Lake and collectively execute the new lake management plan.
So what's that mean?
I accept,
Okay.
but all that other stuff too.
Yes.
You want more help with what you're saying. Or somebody to take over next year.
That's for everyone to decide collectively what this looks like going forward. So,
You're accepting, but with the notion that you're transitioning out of it, clearly.
I didn't say all of it. I'm leaving the door open for a realignment of how everything gets done. And I'm not going to leave anybody hanging. And I want to contribute to Rush Lake, whether I'm in a director seat or the president or not. So whether I'm sitting here or sitting there, I don't care.
Are you open to continuing as a director? Or don't you know at this time?
I'm open to continuing as a director, but this is an important year for the planning project, and the questionnaire came back with a lot of public support, and people expressing interest in volunteering. So I think starting the year out with this tone, I think is ultimately good for Rush Lake, because I've been in this position since 2016 or 17, and we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. And the more the merrier is the way I look at it. And my family can use me too. Everything I said is true. Number one reason is when I'm dedicating hours to all this stuff, it's not meaningful time with my kids or putting money in the bank to help work towards retirement. It's all volunteer, which is great. I've been fortunate to be able to volunteer. But I can't do what I did this last year
I get that.
for an extended period of time. So I accept. I will continue in the president and treasurer role, all the grant compliance stuff, and for future meetings I'll come up with a list of all the stuff and ideas on why I think things are important, because we're doing more stuff than we used to. So there might be things on there that collectively everybody says, who cares? Get rid of it. You know, that's just because I thought it was a good idea and I wanted to do it, doesn't mean it's a great idea and we should continue doing it. So
I guess one concern I would have, Brat, is I think you understand the ins and outs of all this grant process, and I don't know if any of the rest of us really understand that well. I mean, you might typically look at the vice president and say, hey, okay, it's time for you, and I know that I would not be willing to step in and be president. So I do want to make that comment. A year is a long time, but
Goes fast.
what's that?
It goes fast too.
It may be a challenge, and Brett, I think that if you were to remain as a director, you would probably need to expect that whoever was the president may be asking you a lot of questions and needing a fair amount of your time. But anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
I'd like to make a comment. I think you've been well above and beyond what we figured we were going to have. So, I mean, I just want to pat you on the back because, well, I've told you that many times. You know, you've been probably horsing it as much as you can. I mean,
the grant process, must have burned up a lot of time for it. You know, like Ron was saying, I don't think any of us understand it like we do. One thing that prior to this, I believe the grant process was handled through the DNR, I believe.
Some of it.
Some of it, the majority of it.
Yes.
If that, you know, I don't think, I know I couldn't do what you're doing, even come close to it. But maybe, you know, taking that load off of you after this process with the grant that we're working with at this time, maybe in the future, that should go back through the DNR. I don't know.
It depends on the grant that you're asking for.
There's plenty of time
You
to.
can't apply for a lake planning grant.
There's plenty of time to figure all that out, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so optimistic about the outreach we did this last year, having Stantec on board. I know Melissa's not here tonight. They have they scheduled their company holiday party for tonight so that all the grants that fall in the Christmas season are over and done with. So I'm very excited to have Melissa on the team, other partners on the steering committee like Ducks Unlimited. And I think what will bear out in the meeting tonight is this isn't all about what Brat was doing. It's been more of a balancing act than it has been a technical ability thing. And I think you'll see throughout the meeting tonight that it's not dire. And one thing too, my comments are very nuanced. I didn't say I'm quitting. I didn't say I don't want to do, I won't do something. I said I don't want to. And I said I want to support Rush Lake and Rush Lake Watershed. So don't read too much into anything, but I needed to get it out there. So
because I'm a person that reads into things, I'm reading into that it's too much for one person. Because basically you shoulder a lot of the tasks. And even in the text I sent you today, I apologize for my priorities were not with Rush Lake this last month and a half. They just weren't. And you're in it 100% all the time. And I'm just speaking for myself, and I have not prioritized it that way. And I apologize for that if it need be, but it takes everybody on the board to put efforts in, but you're so far above and beyond that, it's hard to meet that level. It's a compliment.
Well, thank you, and I fear this is getting silly because this isn't meant to be say something and then everybody say nice things.
Well,
So
no,
I'd prefer to move on, and then there's things like what we're talking about here can come up.
Because I said it today in the text. I said it today that I've got things going on, and I haven't been up to the lake since the 24th. I couldn't believe it. I was right in the walk today. Priorities changed all of a sudden for me real quick, and I'm at the age where I said I've got to do this, and this is going to be second. So, and you're, as the kids get older, that happens.
Well, and my situation too was I was working full time as the corporate controller at Alliance, and when Nina was born, it was clear that Tracy couldn't work her job and I worked mine, so I chose to stay home with the kids and channel my professional energy here because I had an ability to do so. But I'm nearing the end of that window where I can channel as much as I have been.
Now I understand.
Which doesn't mean what I have been channeling needs to continue, because the project is evolving, and that's part of. I'm really excited because this is the distraction to the excitement that's going to come with the rest of the meeting tonight. So,
I suppose, for those who were on this long time ago, think, when we started out, I mean, it was twice a month at least we were meeting. And it was, so you're right, it might get a whole bunch better once we get cooking here again.
Yeah. So I'll call the motion. It was, unless any further debate on it,
Brat, I was wondering if you could perhaps at our summer meeting kind of come back to this topic and perhaps some type of a proposal for a possible division of, I don't know if duties is the correct term, duties, workload or something like that, where it would be possible to have maybe 2 people involved. Sometimes you have co-chairmen of organizations. I don't think co-presidents are common. But something for a division of the workload. You know, you got a long time to think about that, but maybe just in the back of your mind.
I'll have that done way before then, because in my view, we're going to find out in February if we've got a phase 2 grant, and that's when we start hitting hard phase 2 of the project and the outreach that goes along with it. So if somebody says, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to have a list of stuff at the ready, and then say, hey, I love doing website stuff, I'll do that stuff for you guys. So I just love it if that stuff just gets picked up by happy people who like doing stuff along the way. Okay. And if it makes sense for the organization and the project. So I absolutely will work towards that.
Well, that's the toughest thing is there's one person here. I just don't, that's what I struggle with. I truly do. And on my way up here, I called 4 or 5 people and I said, you need to be at these meetings. I'm here. They need to be at these meetings. Because everybody's first in line to bitch about what's going on, but they're never here to be part of the solution. They just want to be part of the problem. And I'm taking time to say that because it's important. We all know somebody that has an opinion, but they're not here to share it. And Gordy's in Hawaii, or he would be here. And, there's a few people that typically are here that aren't here, and that's about it. That's the tough thing. And, so when you say what you said, it hits pretty hard. Like, if the leader, in my opinion, is, from what you said, I take back, you can only do so much, and you need to have other people take part in things. That's what I get out of that. So who's going to do it? We're the people. And we need to try to get other folks here. And every time on the way home, I have an hour and a half drive home, I call people and tell them what we talked about. Oh yeah, call me for the next meeting. And I call them up and they don't come. So, but they'll be bending my ear when I tell them what's up or if the lake's too high or too low. So, we got a lot going on. I probably should keep moving.
Any further debate? Otherwise, I call the motion. Motion made to keep in place the officers from prior year, which is myself as president, Ron as vice president, Todd as the secretary, and myself as the treasurer. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries unanimously.
Who was the motion again?
Gary and Seth. Okay. Next, lake management planning. Lake management planning, first item. What I really planned for tonight's meeting was to have Melissa here to speak freely through the lake management planning section so you weren't listening to me talk. But with her Christmas party, we're keeping this at a high level, and there's plenty of other meat to get to after. So this will be smaller than the other matters section. The questionnaire is the first item in the lake management planning, and I've distributed to everybody the questionnaire results. Those are being analyzed by Stantec's questionnaire expert person, and they're writing a write-up for the lake management plan on what they mean. But the steering committee spoke about them at our November steering committee meeting and had some initial observations. at a future meeting, probably the next one we have, I'd like to have Melissa have that memo or report or whatever written up for us so we can have a more in-depth look at it, because that's should be driving phase 2 of the project. What do people want? What don't they want? I think fortunately for us, there's some Mr. Obvious type things in the questionnaire results. So if you don't mind, let's just take a couple minutes just to talk about initial observations, and I'll let everyone speak about that, and I'll reserve any comment for the end if there's any big stuff that might have been omitted. Shy crowd. The steering committee minutes that I distributed to everybody hits on a few different spots. The bottom of the first page is the summary from the questionnaire, the discussion that we had back in November. So the first thing I wanted to call out was just that there were 119 respondents, which I view as a success because there were 95 respondents back in 2001, which was the questionnaire where we asked the public to rank the problems that Rush Lake had. So to have 25% more people complete it, and especially being a questionnaire that took nearly 20 minutes to complete versus one question and just check the 3 that you think are the worst or whatever, I think that's a real feather in our cap for outreach. 86% of the respondents viewed there to be too much cattail on the lake, and 71% viewed cattail as limiting their use of Rush Lake, and 88% supported the control of non-native invasive plants. 80% supported safeguarding from and removing carp, and 80% support restoring native emergent vegetation. And my overall feel on all that stuff is that's exactly what we've been talking about for the last bunch of years, and it's what we've been working towards. I don't think there's any surprises there. But then to go along with the invasive plants control, specifically cattail, 81% supported controlled burning, 76% supported mechanical control. That's like your mowing, swamp devil, marsh master kind of stuff. 69% supported water level manipulation. 61% supported high volume aerial herbicide application. That's your helicopter like has been done in the past. And 58% supported low volume hand applied or aquatic vehicle application. And 78% didn't support doing anything. So people want action, which I think again is not a surprise. And to find that people were so broadly supportive of these techniques was encouraging, if you ask me, especially fire, because it's been spoken about for years. Steve Lenz commenting on it as it's a valuable tool. Sadie from U.S. Fish and Wildlife making similar remarks. And it being a very cost-effective management technique to boot. So to see that being the number one supported control technique, I couldn't be more excited about that, to have that level of support. That's all that I had for high-level stuff on the survey. Just good turnout, and people agree with what we've been talking about. We're not full of it. So good job.
Brat, was there any item on the survey that surprised you at all?
Not really.
Okay.
There were a lot of comments. So in the materials I sent to everybody, there was, I'll pull one up. One of the documents is this comment box response, and one of them is the summary data. The summary data is all these pretty charts that say, hey, that of all the people who took the questionnaire, you know, more people, I think it was question 2. No. More people used Rush Lake than other stuff, which makes sense because it's a Rush Lake planning project. So, you know, this thing gives you all the pretty bar charts, and most of those weren't really surprising at all. But the other one gives you all the please explain answers. So there's a lot of interesting context from the people who answered the questionnaire. We don't know who these comments tie into, so they're just comments from people on the internet or whatever. But in an initial search of are there duplicates or people doing any funny business, there's nothing that indicates that. But when you go through here, what I was actually I was surprised. I was surprised because when people go on the internet, they don't have any problem being really jerk about stuff. And there were very few sort of attack.
About 2 is all I saw.
Yeah, so there's very few.
Yeah.
And I was encouraged that the quality of the responses were on point as opposed to you guys have manure for brains and stuff like that, which doesn't really help anything. Because my rebuttal to that is, sounds like a volunteer. You can do better. Come on out. So that surprised me, that it was real low.
I actually get a kick out of people that think that I'm about myself, because I'm the one that's always standing up for making sure other people can get out in the lake. We can get out all the time, So, and you got a dagger at you, but it wasn't, you'll have that. Not a big deal. And you're right, it was, people can really be keyboard warriors when they're sitting at home.
And they don't have to sign their name.
No.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So does anybody else have anything on the questionnaire? Okay, so more to come. We'll have Melissa have that memo written up and speak more in depth about it in the future, and that would be something that'll get incorporated into the final lake management plan.
I liked how you had that all together here too. Just start reading and
Well, the online platform did it for us, so nobody had to do that work. The computer did it, so that was a nice thing. So
makes me respect computers a little more.
There are good things.
That's a hell of a lot.
Then you get used to them though.
yeah. All right. Well, if nothing further on that, we'll move on to the compliance and reporting. And that one, I don't have a handout for. I'll just pull up what I have. Our year-end, so this, it's not very visible in the back, is it? So what this schedule is it's our budget in the left column, our actual recorded through year-end, and how much is left over. The only thing that I don't have recorded in here is the mileage of volunteers along the way. But if I need it, I'll make the effort to record it and document it and submit it, but I don't think I need it. When you look at this report, it looks like, gee, we're really far under. It's a $43,000 budgeted project and we're at $28,000. But in reality, $3,750 from Wisconsin Lake and Pond, that's going to come in when they finish their plant management report. So that bill's going to come. If it hits budget, which I expect it'll be really close, that'll come. Also, Stantec has $2,400 in work in process, which hits a number of the columns up there, or the lines, I should say. And that leaves a leftover of 4,000 and change, which largely comes from this very first line, which is favorability underspending at the State Lab of Hygiene, which basically comes from Kyle Herman's sediment sample. Not quite as many points on the lake and only one depth per point. So at $36 a test or whatever it is, if you submit 100 less of them, that racks up really quick. So hitting, if there's one number that we should look to hit on this page, is the $30,931 of cash spent on the project. Because if you take that and the total amount of in-kind that's recorded to the day, we've met our local share for what the DNR says the local yokels need to pay up in order to get money from the state with the 2/3, 1/3 match. So we've hit the number. So we don't have to worry about scratching out any extra numbers for compliance. We're there. But the 3931 is important because that's the $25,000 DNR cash grant, plus the money that came from the towns, plus the $1,400 that we budgeted and planned on in 2018 for the water sampling in 2019. So when we put the grant application together, we put in $1,431 for water sampling that Rush Lake Watershed Restoration would pay for. So that 3931 is a number that I would like to hit there because it's tied in with everything and it helps keep our nose clean, because it'd be wrong to get grant money to do something and say, oh, we didn't need that money for that. Well, what the heck's that all about? I mean, I'm a CPA. That just doesn't sound like something I want to do. So anyways, that difference between where we're actually spent to getting to that number won't be hard. It's a little over 4,000. The Phase 2 planning project, Stantec had to do some figuring on what cost what, and they didn't have the budget that they were hoping for to actually develop the lake management plan. So what I'm planning to do is I need to connect with Melissa tomorrow, but figure out what her current, as of tomorrow, in-process labor is, and then update that number. And then I'll be working with Ted Johnson and Chrissy Kozik at the DNR to submit a scope change, which picks up all these little fragments of money spent that's higher or lower, all by small amounts, and say we want to take 4,000 and change, and we want to scope into the Phase 1 project, Stantec getting started on the lake management plan, which consists of taking that old spiral round binder, bringing forward the parts that are applicable to today, and getting started on shelling out the report. So when the science comes in this year, it's plug and play, and we can get across the finish line with the lake management plan in the late summer to fall timeline, so that we've got a plan that we can execute starting next winter. Any questions or comments on any of that? Otherwise, that exhausts all that I had to talk about there. Hearing none, I also did cover the next agenda item, the 2019 grant pending scope change, in that same dialogue, so that one we don't need to talk any further about. So then we'll move on to D, the 2020 grant application, which also was included in the steering committee minutes on the bottom of page 2. You'll remember from the fall meeting we had 21 initiatives that we could go for. We asked the steering committee to rank those. That was what we proposed in the grant last year. And also, if there were any board members who wanted to rank them, they were welcome to do that too. Generally, the results were consistent. You're all free to read the minutes and see what made it in there, but I think it probably sums it up better if I just read an excerpt of what I put in the Webster grant application, because there's 12 things that fit, but they fall into 4 big categories. 1, develop the lake management plan. 2, water level studies. 3, a water quality study and nutrient load modeling. And 4, public outreach. So developing the lake management plan is self-explanatory. That's the plan. Number 2, the water level studies. So that's a key part of finalizing the plan, because it's going to recommend the water level regime to be employed on Rush Lake. You know, the current water level regime was based on recommendations from the 60s when the lake was different, and to make a recommendation, new data is gathered, like inflow and outflow elevations and water flow rates and the capabilities of the dam. And when you take those initiatives and add that with past research and working with everybody on the steering committee, we'll be able to make a recommendation for the operation of the dam that helps Rush Lake be better long-term than any old recommendation might be. And then the 3rd, water quality study and nutrient load modeling. Poor water quality was a contributing factor to Rush Lake's deterioration back in the 20th century. It's also believed to be a contributing factor to the rise in dominance of cattail Since the restoration, we've collected lake and tributary samples. The samples collected have provided relevant information about the health of the water, and they have broad implications. 2020 is no different and will include monthly water sampling on Rush Lake from May through August, and also water sampling at 6 tributaries from May through October. With that information, leveraging collaboration with steering committee members and Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance, we'll be able to make a lake management plan that can preserve our current high-quality lake water while making meaningful improvements in the aquatic plant community and tributaries to Rush Lake. And then the fourth one, public outreach, is our Brat and the planned rollout event, which we'll touch on later. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing this year. At least in the application. We don't know if we win the award until tail end of February. Any questions or comments on the content of the 2020 Phase 2 grant application? Hearing none, I'll move on to another part of that. A big thank you to our local partners to get the project across the finish line. Ducks Unlimited has pledged $2,000 of in-kind time. Winnebago County has pledged $880 of in-kind time for staff labor. Stevens Point's pledged $600 of in-kind time and services. Nepieskins pledged $1,750 in cash and meeting space. Utica has pledged and already contributed $1,000 towards the project. The town of Ripon has pledged $1,000. Citizen pledges have totaled $2,050, $550 which has been received. And the Rush Lake Watershed Board, just from the figuring out how many hours are we in board meetings, at the Brat Fry, at the rollout event, steering committee, all that stuff, the total time commitment of this board collectively next year is 250 hours through all those different events, which is far less than it was this year. So we're not doing a survey again next year. And, the open house event won't take as much doing because it's more on Stantec's part. So that's a smaller number than last year. And also we have a request from the Webster Foundation for $2,000 to help the planning project as well. There is an incremental tributary testing that we're looking to do outside of the project that there isn't a budget for in here. The reason for that is Kyle Herman has a lab that can test for total phosphorus, and they do it all the time. I was just reading a Citizen Lake Monitoring newsletter the other day that talked about all these different people who work with water quality testing, and it mentioned Stevens Point does all this testing and works with lakes and stuff like that. The Surface Water Grants Program only allows surface water grant money to be paid to the State Lab of Hygiene or another certain certified lab, and only if you can make a real compelling reason for it. So Stevens Point isn't certified in that, but based on they test for phosphorus and all this other stuff, and they can test it for far cheaper than the State Lab of Hygiene, I'm looking to have us spend, I don't know what the number is because I don't know how many tests there will be, and you'll know why in a minute, $500, just a round number for what that's going to be. What that test is this. This year when we had a significant rainfall, here's how it went. I figured out what my girls were going to let me do for the day, and then as soon as I could get them fed and happy, we'd leave the house with a skiff, and I'd go take a special water sample at the 6 tributaries around Rush Lake when I could get around to it. Not very scientific. It's like something a stay-at-home dad would do. What Kyle Herman has to offer are these special, I don't know what the name of the machine is, you probably know, Ellen, but it's basically a device that you put in the tributary, and then once there's a significant rainfall event, it's going to take 200 milliliters of stream water every so often, you tell it. So every 30 minutes, it'll pull a brand new sample. And it could do that for 8 hours straight, so you could find out, hey, we just got 4 inches of rain. What happened a half hour after the rain, an hour after the rain, 2 hours after the rain, so you can actually figure out what's coming in through the tributary when you have that big stuff. The difference is if it costs $36 to test one sample at the state lab, and it costs $350 to do it at Stevens Point, which I don't know what it is. It's just I know it's in the single digit range. It's not like over 10 from my conversation with Kyle. it's a lot cheaper, especially if you've got this machine rapidly collecting. You know, if 35 samples just showed up and we have to test them, we'd blow through the project budget. We'd be looking at phase 3 on it. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. And it's another reason why I'm happy we're partnered with the partners that we are, because Stevens Point has the capability, and Kyle Herman has been a great partner.
And that is a separate grant.
There's no grant.
No grant.
We pay for that out of the Treasury.
Okay.
And it's complementary to the lake management plan. So like when we had the steering committee meeting, one of the items that was on there is we could do a bird study. And when we talked about it, the comment was, maybe you don't have to pay for a bird study, but maybe there's somebody out there who's just kind of like a hobby bird person. There's probably a term for those people. I don't know what it is. And if they have something to share, maybe you can leverage what they have in the lake management plan, even though it's not a bird study. So the water quality testing is like that. It's a lot cheaper price point that we can afford, and that's important, which you'll see in a little while.
What happens if we use results from a lab that wasn't necessarily a certified lab on their list? Or, you know, the reason I ask is because we have a waste treatment plant at work. We do all the testing for all our own water that we release into the streams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we test for phosphorus, we test for all those things, nitrates, phosphorus, so on and so forth, total dissolved solids. You know, and I could probably get them into doing some water testing for us, but I don't know that those results mean anything to anybody because
Not a certified lab.
Right.
And he's not a stay-at-home dad.
And you got to separate church and state. I mean, he's testing and saying this is what we're putting in the water, it's safe, and he's saying, oh, the water we're testing for you is safe. He can't be a valid judge then. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's your opportunity to screw the results instantly. You know what I'm saying? So it would be excellent to have that, but it sounds like Stephen's point is coming in dirt cheap. And the study that we're actually doing is not a certifiable piece of the grant itself. Like you said, it was something we want to know for information. So a lot of ways to it.
Data's data, though. Whatever you can get.
Where it's useful is I forget the name of the modeling that they use, but they already have computer models that say here's how much nutrient loading should be happening just based on all this other research that's been done. So technically, all it's going to do is say whether the computer model is accurate enough or inaccurate, and maybe if it's inaccurate, then we look to do a more certifiable water study piece later. It's kind of just a double check for a lot of reasons. So, and if it comes out, I know one thing, me going and collecting the water sample whenever I get around to it isn't giving any meaningful science. It just says, holy cow, at that moment in time, it's higher. Maybe it was twice as high a half hour before or a half hour after. Don't really know, so you can't really, use my number to project anything either. It's more of a novelty, so.
But it's still data.
Right.
More than we had before. And one of the biologists in here said that's extremely important to have some type of data. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. And Point's got the equipment too, Bruce. So they've got the gadget that collects all this stuff.
So they bring that gadget in to all the different tributaries?
They would put it in like 2 or 3 tributaries.
And then can they read it from
The
their
Wi-Fi?
facility, or does it need to be gathered and brought back to them?
They're planning on having a student down more this next summer.
Okay.
So my belief is that they're going to be doing it with somebody on site, but maybe it has a cellular, maybe they can operate it through cell or something. I have no idea.
That's the most accurate way to do it, because otherwise you assume that the human is any different than you.
Yeah. So
We all have, meaning they've got to be there at the right times.
And some of these storms, they come through, like when I did it this last year, if you look down Rosendale, it'd get like, 1.25 inches, and it'd be like 3 inches out of Gary's, and then you go, 5 miles to the north, and it's, 1.5 inches again. So it's really crazy how different it can be just a few miles.
I sometimes think that the lake plays like Lake Michigan. Michigan, and that we can see certain storms that go
Oh, yeah.
across and stuff. There's something with that marsh, and sometimes it just evades us, and it goes all the way around in all the other areas.
The cattails give off heat, and it pushes the air.
So that's all that I had to say about the 2020 grant application. The way it stands, other than the 500 or whatever that number is for the Stevens Point phosphorus test during significant rain events, there really isn't a treasury hit to Rush Lake watershed. So that's positive. We're able to get by with donated time and the townships putting up money and the public that have put up money and the partner organizations who are donating time.
Brett,
Yep.
do you need a motion to go and spend that money on that 500 for this testing at all? Or monitoring?
I'd say why don't we save it until another day when we have real numbers and or maybe Kyle will be here or something a little bit closer. Because if the number were $800 or $200, it could be, or we can't use it for some reason, which I can't grasp. I just say we'll save it for another time. That's a good question. Because using the treasury isn't something that I want to do just willy-nilly. I want everybody to be on board with it. Okay. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we'll move on to outreach. The outreach events for this next year, there's going to be some mailings and newspaper ads and stuff like we had this year. But ultimately a Brat Fry and a planned rollout event. Brat Fry's scheduled. We have Sunday, August 9th. It's not a Saturday. I wasn't able to make Webster's before they opened up. I got there about half hour to 45 minutes after they started taking reservations for the Brat Fries. And they didn't have a Saturday available except for April or earlier or October or later. So I thought that's probably not that helpful. So I chose a Sunday that is a few months out from the planned rollout event, but not too far. And also it's a little bit earlier in August, so hopefully it's not like our first year Brat Fry, which was, I think it was the Sunday before Labor Day weekend or something. And what we found with that was Saturdays early in summer were so much better than that Sunday. So with any luck, that Sunday is a good event that we earn more than the Sunday we did the first year we had a Brat Fry. And then the plan.
In the future, to get a good date, you may want to pitch a tent and be there first in line.
I would.
I mean, that's the way it works, huh? First come is.
Art, were you there?
No.
How early were you there? Or is that a secret?
No, I got there just about 6:30 and there were 5 people.
That was a few years ago.
That was this year.
This year. Oh, okay. You were the person that signed it up.
No, Brett did,
He does.
because he was different, but see, I go there for the
Oh.
BFW.
Okay.
And what is it, one person, one date, and that's it, you can't do multiple? Well, what it is during the, what I'll call prime time is May or June through September. They'll allow you one Saturday and one Friday. And that's the way it works. And they really don't like that much having multiple people, or one person picking out multiple organizations.
Sure.
So
Makes it more fair.
And I would have been there earlier, but it occurred to me the day before, later on in the evening, that it was my younger daughter's first day of 2.5-year-old preschool, and I thought, I should probably be there at drop-off. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to.
Well, I wouldn't have thought it was that. I mean, I know people are scrambling, but I think it was that.
like Black Friday. Yep. And then the planned rollout event, Vines and Rushes agreed to give us another Cause of the Mondays event this next year. So like we had the open house this year, we could couple the planned rollout with that Vines and Rushes Cause of the Mondays event. They've got a great space out there, a lot of room, and it solves for the issue of serving people food. It'll make a lot less work for us to pull that together. Nancy, you know that because you led the charge on that this last year. So, they'll be cooking pizzas, and if someone comes and orders a pizza while they learn about the project and talk and stuff, then, we get 25% or whatever food sales are. So it's a win-win for everybody. And because it's the rollout event, we do have an outreach, the newspaper ads will all be keyed in on that. So hopefully that event is well attended and we get a bigger contribution to the Treasury than we have been, having ours on a Monday in winter or whenever we had it the last couple of years. So very fortunate they're willing to have us back and support us.
And that's for what's the date on that?
Monday, October 19th. And on the outreach on that, I spoke with Melissa today. The thought was the lake management plan will first come out in a draft form. That would be distributed before the event so that people can read it before coming to the event and saying this is smart and this isn't smart or whatever the comments are. So there'd be a period for them to review the plan beforehand, like 2 weeks or so, and a similar review period afterward before we close down for comments. And with all those comments in, then we can make adjustments to the plan before submitting it to the DNR for final approval. Also, the thought on that, we wouldn't distribute the plan to the public before this board sees the plan. So later on in the agenda, love to get a meeting scheduled for the end of summer just so we can count on it and set that as we need Stantec to have the first pass of the plan done for us, this board, by this day. So if we have issues with the plan, Stantec can move things around or gussy it up before we roll it out to the broader public. Because I don't know about you, Gary, but I have a feeling if one of your Town of Ripon residents said, hey, Supervisor Page, why did you approve such a stupid plan? And if you had to say, I never saw it, that wouldn't sound very smart.
We just had one of those.
So anyways, we'll touch on that later with the scheduling a meeting. That concludes all that I had on the lake management planning and outreach. Any further questions or discussion? Otherwise, everything turns to active management and projects and so on. Okay.
As far as drafting the plan, Brat, how much of that work do you need to do versus is that all of Stantec's baby?
Yeah, almost none.
Okay.
I need to write a memo to document the outreach that we did, newspaper ads on these dates so that the DNR can see, we weren't just hiding in the closet, doing something that nobody saw to say, hey, we put this out in front of people. So I've got a little bit of writing to do, but it's all pretty much slam dunk stuff that I'm pretty familiar with. So and pointing them to stuff in the old plan that they might want to incorporate, and it's their baby.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Nothing further. We'll move on to other matters. 6A on the agenda, the water level update. Ron, if you'd update us for where the dam has been, and then after we have that discussion, we'll talk about the quote-unquote new levels in 2020.
Okay, I handed out a water level history sheet, and in the left-hand column, this is very similar to what I've done in past years. The left-hand column are the dates that I visited the dam. The gauge reading then is in the next column to the right, and then I've got some comments, most of those on what actions I took, and so on, under the notes column. So I really don't think I need to read through all those dates and those levels. You can follow through that
Well, why?
Well, you can argue that maybe I should have been out there a little more often than I was, but those are the dates that I was there. If you look at the March dates, I've got a comment on the end here that Brat assisted me during March and April in the operation of the dam. And, those dates where it was every day, March 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 through 26. The interesting thing about that is to just see how that water level does rise, how high it gets, and then following those dates, how it did get back down. And I think that was something very interesting for Brat to experience. So I'll probably have some more comments on that when we get to the new 2020 levels. But anyway, I think that that pretty much covers what I wanted to say. If anyone has any specific questions, I'd certainly be happy to talk about it either now or even later.
What kind of help did you require when Brat was helping you?
I had a health issue, and I wasn't able to physically do a lot of the work down there.
Okay.
So Brat filled in. I drove over to his house one day, and I said, Brat, here's the crank, here's the tools. Can you help me out? And he did. So that was during, starting about March 15th through the month of April. So like I said, on all of those consecutive days, when the water level was in excess of, let's say, 2.25 or 2.0 even, that was Brat. He was down there every day checking that. So.
Because as time changes, and what we were talking about earlier with his patron stuff, if it's a matter of helping out and taking measurements or reading things and stuff, call me.
Okay.
By all means.
Okay.
I'm limited to some physical things, obviously. When you say crank or whatever, okay. But
stay away from the blogs is what you should do.
Ron, but if I can do something in those regards or help with you,
okay,
please reach out.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Ron, on the times that they were going to have to come out with the radar and pull the logs out, was it worse this year, less this year?
Yes, the entry on April 20th said gates 2, 3, 4, 5 plugged with bogs, 10 feet deep, worst ever.
Right.
Then the next entry says on the 23rd, bog removal by Winnebago County Highway Department, over 1 truckload. We've never had that volume of bogs before. Oh, they had a tandem or a triaxle dump truck, one of their snowplow trucks out there, and the box was pretty much completely filled. And we did leave.
But they were out there once.
Just once. I suspected that we would want to do it again this fall, but we didn't. As a matter of fact, Doug, I have to thank you because you gave me a different idea. When you were down there doing some work in the late fall, that bog that was in front of there, you tied that off and apparently had enough help to drag it off to the side. And I had never thought about doing that, but it's staying there. It's not going anywhere. And I'm thinking, okay, that's another way to get some of the larger ones cleared that you can't cut up and in any way get through the gates.
So they were calling charges.
Yes.
Maybe asking for that.
Typically, it's $700 or $800 charge to have them down there. So it's about 3 to 4 hours of labor and equipment. They come down there with a great all to do the scooping and the dump truck, and typically there is a foreman and 2 or 3 employees. Of course, you've got a great all operator. It would be a foreman plus 3 employees then.
But through the years prior to this, they've been down there about once a year.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been a year where they have not. Typically wait till June, July, when you're not going to have a lot of movement of the bogs due to heavy rain and so on. This year was different because we did have heavy rains all the way through. But wait until about that time, water level's a bit lower. The area there of Foster Rush's property that they have to drive on, you know, and we were down there in April and it was wet and we rutted the hell out of that area. And when they leave, they try to level it off. They throw a little grass seed down there. And Foster Rush has always been very understanding. They've never complained, and so try to keep that in mind also.
I was anticipating when we raised the level higher in this last 4-year period now, that I had anticipated in my own mind that we'd have more movement of bogs coming in there. But it appears that it's been kind of what it's been in the past.
Yes, and if it wasn't for the heavy rains that we've had now the last 2 years, to suddenly raise the water level 3 or 4 tenths, those bogs get moving. If it would have been more of a normal year without that heavy rainfall, I don't think we would have had the movement of the bogs that we did the last 2 years.
Well, I know that the south end can get bogged up the last 2 years, big time compared to what it was.
Yeah, I've seen more bogs on the south end this year than I ever have before.
It's due to the excessive rain.
Right.
Yeah,
no doubt.
But not necessarily having the level that we kept it at.
Right.
Well, right. The level's down here at where it's been keeping it so high. But the thing is, it goes up so much when we have all those big rains. And usually the weather isn't nice either, so it's blowing around. I mean, you know it's coming through because they're shoving them all into the South Coast line. You know, the only thing you can do that is wind. I'm sure the current isn't going to do it unfortunately. But, you know, they get up so they can tear loose, and that's where they wind up. And I'm not familiar with where the dam is, how that lays out there. You know, or your end. I'm a little more familiar with that than the east side.
But I agree with Doug's comment that the 1.4 level that we've been at now for several years wasn't a contributing factor to more bogs at the dam.
More dependent on the big rains.
Yes, and then the sudden rise in the water levels.
The 2 is about 1.8.
Any other questions or comments on Ron's report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next part of this agenda item, the water level regime for 2020. We're at the end of our trial water level regime where we were seeking to keep it at the upper end of the range, the 1.4, and we're in between periods now of the old water level regime and a lake management plan that has a thoughtful recommendation based on water level monitoring and a more scientific approach towards it. So we're left with what do we do in 2020? This topic was discussed at the steering committee meeting in November, and I'd like to just recite what's from the minutes there to everybody and then take the discussion from there to see if we're in agreement or if there's a bone to pick with the recommendation. The steering committee meeting minutes read, the lake has been managed to be at a maximum allowable level of 1.4 for the last 4 years. 2020 will not yet have a recommended water level regime in place from the lake management plan. Given a grant application to burn and feedback from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recommending lowered water levels to burn effectively, consensus was to lower water levels in 2020. With the spring thaw, the dam is fully open, whether the water is managed high or low. It is planned that the water will be dropped to the 0.8 foot level from the Public Service Commission document, and depending on the results of the controlled burn grant application and studies to be completed in 2020, either A, the water level could be dropped further or held at 0.8, depending on the specifics of a burn plan, or the water level could be managed to be raised in July and August, consistent with the PSC document, should a burn not be on the horizon for the winter of 2020 to 2021. The owner of the dam, the town of Nepieskin, is supportive of a thoughtful recommendation, and Brat will continue to be interactive with the town. So so that was the recommendation. Open the gates wide open in spring, draw it down to 0.8 like before our water level regime, and depending on if there's a grant that's coming in to pay for a burn next winter, then we'll figure it out in the summer based on the development of a burn plan and all that information. If there is no burn, why not bring the water level back up to 1.4 in the fall like with the PSC order before we did this trial water level regime.
Brent, what you're saying there is that if there can be a burn, that we want it lower,
Yes.
and then after the burn, then, as I understand it, then it's supposed to be raised back up again?
Yes. And the exact levels and all that needs to be determined in the lake management planning process. But that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Lower for a burn and then get water on it for after.
It's critical. The burn, if that can be accomplished, but getting the water to come back up at the proper time, which would be the rest of the winter, I'm assuming.
Before the following growing season. Before the following growing season needs to be over the
Before the growing season. So we're still dependent upon nature giving us some water to look up. Okay. That's the risk factor.
Well, the other risk is lowering it and not burning, because we don't have, and that's where I have a problem. Because by having the water at the lower mark, in the growing season, the outlying areas get thicker. They just do, and it starts to come back out in the lake. So we're going to hedge that we're going to get a little bit more growth with the idea that we're going to do burn and do better down the road, but we're hedging on something that's unknown. Do you follow that?
Yes, but no, because the PSC order and the way you managed the dam previously, Ron, was you kept it at 0.8 until July 15th.
0.7.
Yeah. So by midsummer, we should know whether there's a bird in the hand on burning or not. The first application for the burn grant was submitted yesterday.
But I've argued forever that having the water lower during the growing season makes it, we're creating more growth, having the water level lower.
Right, aren't we going to have more germination going on?
Yeah.
With the water level down at 0.8, aren't we worried about, like, oh, if we do that and then we don't end up getting a burn scheduled, we can raise the water level back up, but at that point, aren't we like, oh, we already had a bunch of brand new cattails germinate that now we're going to be battling again?
That's fair. The comment that came from the Adaptive Management Work Group and Sadie and U.S. Fish and Wildlife was, for when they do a burn plan, they get the water down. And if it's not down before Memorial Day, they don't do a burn that winter. So their view, at least when they manage the Fed and Horicon, is you got to get it down early, because you might not ever get it down.
Well, that's not a debate. But the debate is preparing for something that we don't know what to do.
But apparently that's the way they want it. I mean, they want it low by that point in time, just to make sure it's going to happen.
The thing is this still is an experiment. Regardless of how much we can talk about it, Mother Nature can say, here's to you.
Right.
And that's the end of it. But the thing is we have to try to prepare. First off, is we've had this for, 4 years now, 5 years on the 1-4. We've seen what's gone on with that. As far as, talking about, are we going to get a whole lot of new germination? I'd say this is, you've got all this cattail is rain cattail now. And,
It's not though.
well, a fair amount of it is. So the bottom line is how much are you going to be germinating new stuff, growing in where it's clogged up with cattail already? So I think we should go along with what we're discussing now.
The thing that makes me not as worried about it is we don't have to decide anything. Like, whatever we say now doesn't really impact anything, because, Ron, the dam's getting operated full open from March, April, May, basically, whether we want to keep it at 1.4 or 0.8, generally. Is that a fair statement?
But the dam does have the capability to lower the lake level dramatically at almost any time. So, my question is, first one is, the burn would be February, March, correct? That's when typically the burns are done?
Snow cover.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we're talking about lower water levels all the way through the summer to prepare for that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the hunters won't be happy.
Well, some of the comments said there's nothing there to hunt anymore.
Okay, but still, there are going to be hunters that aren't going to be happy.
The people that fish won't be able to get out there with standard outboards if we're down at 0.8
But
through most of the summer.
if we wanted to go through the hunting season and lower the water level beginning in December or something like that, it can be done. It can be done with a new dam.
The herps,
Is that?
the herpes,
Yeah.
the
Toads and
salamanders. And
Well, yeah, I mean, Ellen's turtles, the whole thing.
That's what you will forever remember me.
Say you said it at the adaptive management meeting too, is that if you don't, you pull the rug out from underneath them if you do it too late in the year, so you gotta do it early.
Okay.
What does pulling the rug out mean?
They dig in,
Lower it.
and then you lower the water.
They're living there and then they don't have water.
Well,
and they freeze
what if
out
we
in the
wait
winter.
till, my thing, I'm curious, what if we wait till middle to end of summer, you know, when you get into that, end of July into August, because then your prime, you know, where you have the most sun, where you have the most germination going on, you're past that point. And then you're not going to have as much of an issue if you draw it down, you know, if you pull it down to 0.8 later on.
Ron, you could dump that water in a few weeks.
Plus, that's going to be the drier season anyway. If we're going to get rid of, you know, if we want to bring it down, that's going to be the easiest time to do it, I would imagine. Obviously, there's the Mother Nature thing that can do whatever it wants, but.
So, and I have to go on record to say this also. When we talked about burn, did 80% of the people supported burning, did they understand how the burning was going to happen? Were they prepared to potentially lose a fishing season or a duck hunting season?
No, but that's the part of the planned rollout.
Well, it's a fact they didn't know. And if it was told to them that's what was going to happen, it would have been 80% support.
That's
I'm-
what we missed the boat.
I'm going to start sounding like Lawrence Bradley. I can go on that lake whenever I want. I always can get out there. I'm speaking for others.
Like to go to the audience, please.
Oh, just real quick, I mean, I know what you're talking about with worrying about public losing a fishing season or a hunting season. Everything's being done for the betterment of moving on in the years after. So who cares if we lose 1 year here to get to a better spot later on? I mean, you're not, as a general public, you'd be selfish to say, well, I'm not in favor of burning it because I'm going to lose 1 year. Go somewhere else for a year.
Well, that's not the debate. The debate is
It's not a debate, but I
if
mean-
we don't have if we can't do it next winter, you're losing the season for nothing.
Yes.
But no, there should be knowledge on whether the award's been received before you have to decide, is it low in fall or can it be 1.4 in fall? Because if it's the 4th of July and there's no grant award, it'd be silly to say, well, let's just keep it low. Because what it would ultimately be is it would be a year like 5 years ago when it's like, all right, Ron drops the dam 9.9 or at 8.4 inches, lower through the middle of July, and then he brings it up 7 inches, and then he brings it up another 1.5 inches for the end of summer.
And Art calls up Mother Nature and she dumps the water.
Yeah. But really, to the comment on, people aren't going to support it or whatever, I think, people lost the lake when we had the old drawdown. The drought in 2012, people noticed that, and that impacted people negatively. But in the survey, the questionnaire, people are saying the cattail does limit my use of Rush Lake. The vast majority say that. So if it's, guess what, we're going to keep the lake 10 inches lower or 8 inches lower than maximum through the middle of July, and then if there's a burn that looks reasonably assured for this next winter, then we might we might keep it the same, or might drop it 6 more inches, or drop it 10, I don't know. That depends on the burn plan and the science people to figure out what the ideal recommendation is. And then, I think it's a lot easier for Stomach to say, we're going to do this water level manipulation, but this burn is pretty much assured to happen. And I think it makes it so much easier to swallow. And it's all talk today, but
I'm speaking for the people.
Then
really
can we get some type of publicity out there then to let people know, okay, the burn's been approved, we're going to do the burn. We get the grant for it. This is the next steps now. Due to public wanting the burn, that's great, we got it. This is how this goes now, and just start putting some stuff out there and then just let them know. Maybe.
Well, we'll know we will know at our September meeting if they're going to burn or not. We'll know maybe.
Way before then.
Yes.
We would know in July.
We can let them know then. Right. They can go
Yeah,
out here.
it should be.
You can tell people. You can't always tell everybody everything, and when you do, it doesn't work anyway.
But you can't put a survey out there and use that data when they weren't explained. It's that transparency that we really try to create, and we didn't do it not on purpose. It wasn't done on purpose, but it's there.
But we put it out there what we knew when we made the survey. That's all. And this whole thing can change.
Right.
I mean, we might decide after this lake planning thing is, hey, we got what we got. There's really not a damn thing we can do about it.
Right.
Can I just pull up some questionnaire stuff? Because I think it actually does help answer what you're saying, Todd. So question 10, what are your views on Rush Lake as it pertains to this stuff? Current water level, about half say it was about right, a quarter say it's too high, and a quarter say it's too low, which sounds to me like it was pretty
We're in
much
a good place.
perfect.
Yes.
And there are many techniques to manage the lake. So this one, seasonally adjusted water level management. 2/3 were supportive of it. So it's not 80%, but it's still the majority support that. And this is the realm of what we're talking about. And if somebody said, well, I don't know, what does that mean? They could have always answered the unsure, need more information bucket. Same as burning. Burning had the same out. On the question of burning, let's see how many people said that. Here, so 13 people said, or that's not it. 7 people said, I don't know, I need more information about burning. So, I don't know. There's a caveat to the 81, but the water level management, 2/3 liked it, and only 7 people were unsure of burning. So,
And the burning, to me, I was surprised because, there's people with property on that lake. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad it was on the survey because I'm thinking, can you imagine if you went out there and started, so it was a good thing to put on there, but I look at it as burning and really hasn't got anything to do with, it does, we find out when you get into the science, it does have something to do with the lake level, but the burning is still the burning. And, we didn't try to snooker them or anything.
Well, here's the other question. When it comes to that, when we get to that point, I'm sure that we're not burning way up to shore and stuff anyways, right?
I don't know what they're
I
burning.
wouldn't think
we don't have a
so.
burn plan, so
Right.
you'd assume not.
You'd assume not, and there's enough water within the center, took out a lot of the stuff in the middle, whatever. I can't see that they would be burning that close when you say people have property and stuff. That they're going to
Yeah,
go
but
that
you know,
close.
they're burning, and there's wind.
There is. You're right.
Right.
You're right. But there's still,
And there's
there's still a lot of open water.
You can't really
all the way
control
around.
where all the stuff is landing that goes up in the air either that's still on fire when it's down.
I think what Nancy had mentioned right from the start, we can put out a notification that we intend to burn. These conditions have to be met for us to make that burn. We're going to try to work with that. Mother Nature may have another plan, but if the intended plan works, this is our hoped outcome. And that's all we're talking about here now anyway, isn't it? So just let people know we have an intention, there's a plan in motion, and they say, whoops, you guys screwed up that year, and we can get all the armchair quarterbacks we need for the next time around. But I think we've got to do it like our kid. We've got to get some data. We've got to see what happens. We have no idea. I'm just getting this picture that, okay, you lower it, you burn the crap out of it, and you quick bring the water up so that you snuff out the plants before they can regenerate. How effective that is, how many times we have to do it, we might be very surprised. We have this large, clear lake in 1 year, or we didn't put
That's
it in
not
there.
going to happen.
I know, but I mean,
It's going to come back.
Down by Orcon, you see.
But what I'm saying is that we've got to go out there, we've got to light the match, and the conditions are going to change. And some are going to be out of our control, some are in our control. But what we can do, what's in our control, is notifying the public that we're doing something. You know, and not all of a sudden, oh my God, there's a fire.
We have a plan to do something.
Yeah, just let people know what the plan is there.
Yep.
That's all.
And we have budgets for all that, and
Yeah.
that'll be all part and parcel of the
Maybe
project.
we get some people at the meeting. You know, 'cause this is upsetting to me that there's nobody here now.
Tell them about burning their lake, and they might show up for the next one.
Yeah, I mean,
I got a question on raising, after it's burned, now you raise the level of the water. How long, at what stage do you have to have that snuffed off? Is it when the ice is gone? That the water's brought up above where the burn level was?
When you use it, take advantage of the spring snow melt is the way I understand it.
So
You burn it in winter, and then it thaws, and
Do we need a 6-inch head start or a 6 foot to do cattails have enough energy after the burn to make it through 18 inches of water on top of it?
sunlight.
Or is 6 enough?
Depends on the sunlight.
I don't know, there's so much trash in there, and with old bog and everything, I don't know that we really know anybody. I don't know if you can know for certain the answers to all these questions until you do it, which is where I've heard the term adaptive management thrown out around a bunch, where you try something and find out what worked and what didn't work, and then you try something different.
And this is where we bring the experts in that we've hired on managing these cattails. So I see some very dynamic things happening out there. I'm just very optimistic.
Yeah. Art?
Remember the one thing when Steve came to our meetings and talked about was it wasn't a one-out deal. Oftentimes they had to burn a number of times before they started to finally knock the stuff back to the point where it was opening up that you were getting more desirable plant species in there. So
it's like let's do it 5 years. One of these years we're going to really smack it. You know, in other words, the conditions will be right, and we got it.
I think what it is you start off, you do it once, you see what results you get out of it, and then the adaptive management plan is okay. Well, now we got to do this again, or maybe we don't have to do it again, or maybe we got to spray first and then burn, because that was part of it too. We were talking about that one time. You remember one of the meetings.
So should we be the experts on that, or do we want the recommendations from our standby? Was it
That was consensus from the steering committee.
the steering committee that was?
You don't
Okay.
get anywhere without going through that. And you can have all the consensus that you want on your own. That doesn't, you won't get us nowhere. have their people that know how to do it, and if they set their plan up, they follow the plan. The conditions can be favorable then, but when it's time to burn, it's too windy, wind's out of the wrong direction, it will not happen. I mean, you can plan to your, and I think they have their criteria that has to be met, and when it's met, they'll go ahead. Because by us, when they burn off there, several times they're all deployed, they're ready to go, and then there's no fire. Things weren't right, and they pull out.
Do they end up burning almost every year, Chuck?
No.
They don't.
No,
How many years out of 3 do you say they do burn?
Once every 7, maybe.
Really, that's all. It just seems to me like it's more often than that.
Well, where's that?
Which part?
Eli?
Oh,
They don't burn the whole thing.
Right.
Right, they burn different
Section.
pieces of it.
yeah.
How successful do you think that's been out there?
Well, for what you're wanting, because it's extremely thick over across the road from us there now, because it's higher ground, and it's really tough to navigate through there. So I mean, things have grown up thick, but in the grass this year, lots of places the grass is just thick as can be, and over there it's tremendous. I mean, it's just brushes growing back, and well, I would like to see. That's not what I like to see is brush and all that growing in. But on ours, when we've been able, except for this year, to cut a lot of it. But this year was the worst ever, and last year was slightly better than this, but still lagging behind quite a bit.
Record precipitation?
Exactly.
You don't.
And you can't get rid of it. It just stays there. But I mean, when we first put that crick in years ago, and that would be on early 80s maybe, there was, I mean, it was cattail seed. There was cattails as far as you could see everywhere. But once that creek was cleaned and we got a few ditches in there, then we found out, burning in the spring, in certain spots you could get pretty good. Found out you do not want to burn in the summertime because the peat gets dry and exposed, and that's a problem. That's a very big problem. So you don't do it then. And fall can be good, but spring I thought was a nice time because there again, if the conditions come right, if it gets dry early, so it's dry on top, but the ground is still wet, things work really well then. But we're trying to get rid of the cattails and bring back grass, and that's happened very well.
Steve Woods took me for a tour out there a number of years ago, and he was showing the different cells. They call them cells.
Right.
They burn, didn't burn. And the one thing he did say that, and I'm assuming that was when it was drawn down completely, that the fire had to be there. It had to be there for like a minute and a half on that cattail bulb, and it was certain 800 degrees in order to kill that. And that was why it was so difficult for them, even under those conditions out there, to get a consecutive kill every time.
Because it's not that often, but there's so much dense matting that it's going to take several times before you can begin to get down to where you want to be.
So once it was diked, then when they burned,
Yes.
it worked. But that's because it was diked and the water was off, correct?
Correct. If you don't take the water off, because in the first years, some of that, we burned it off, and it was back with a vengeance. It was so thick, literally just as close as you could get. But by coming back, burning it again, and cutting some, and now there's the low spots still, there's cattails. We have a 40 that's 2/3 cattails, so it doesn't get cut that often because it's just the wettest part.
I was kind of against the idea of trying to burn out the lake itself. But part of my misconception was what Steve told me out on Marsh. And this is entirely different. But, you know, if you can get those conditions,
Right.
and you're snuffing it off, that's a possibility.
Because I've walked out to Uline when I used to walk out there a lot deer hunting time. They had burned some off there. And sure, the stuff that was up, but there was like a carpet. From the old stuff was there, never touched down where it never even came close to what you call the bulbs or anything. Because there was so much there, and maybe the conditions weren't exactly right, but it went through too quick, possibly. But it was like, whoa, they burned all this. And, you know, all what you could see was, you know, it looked nice, but all the old stuff that lay there, and that gets fixed, absorbs moisture and doesn't burn as well, and it takes really dry weather to get that done. But if you keep at it,
you had mentioned about the peat burning. I've had an interesting experience with that. Over 50 years ago now, I was a young kid, I was out there deer hunting, and I'm walking along, and the next thing I knew, I fell down 8 feet. A pit had burned out of that, and I didn't know there was those out there. I was scared the hell out of me at first.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky it wasn't still burning.
No,
Yeah.
it was off.
oh
It was
boy,
off.
yes. When you get that, you smell. Once you smell, you know when it's.
I have a question for Ellen regarding Nancy's point on public notice. What does the DNR do when they do some drastic water level changes that way? I think in the past few years at the Grand River Marsh, you've done some fairly drastic water level changes.
The Grand River Marsh is down because the dam was built.
Oh, okay.
Dam went
So
off,
that, we
flooding.
didn't want to do that.
Oh,
But we do major public meetings and we let everybody know and then we take the hits. And we do that.
I was hoping for a different answer.
I always get notices anytime any of the DNR is doing anything in the area, when they have any public things, I always get notices on my email, because if you have, if you have your Go Wild and you have it set up to get email notifications, anytime there's anything going on involving public areas or lakes or anything they're doing, it shows up on your email.
So we try, but there's always somebody that was on vacation in Antarctica and came back and didn't see the paper, didn't see it, didn't check his email. So then they come to the meeting and then we say, well, this is when we sent this is when we did that, this is when we did that.
Of course, I could go back to Todd's concern and that maybe they should be at these meetings also. Anyway.
Yeah, let's focus back on the 2020 recommended water level regime. It closed, Ron and I met with the town. The town's supportive of a thoughtful recommendation. I want to rephrase what I said before, just the steering committee's consensus, using the PSC guidance to drop the water down to that 0.7 or 8 or whatever it was. And if the grant award is received in the burn and in conjunction with the development of the burn plan, adjusting the water levels to the recommendations that best give the best chances of success of that burn plan. And if it's not looking like it's going to happen, then pull the water back up to 1.4 and fall next year. So we can support it, or we could say we need more information about this. The steering committee needs to think about that harder and come back on that for reasons such as reluctance to dropping it early with more germination of cattail and the risk that you drop the water but there aren't the right conditions, so a burn doesn't happen and you further entrench cattail. So I guess the competing proposal of this organization sounds to me like just keep it at 1.4, and if a burn could happen on top of the 1.4, great. But if it's 1.4 and you burn on top of it, you can't put any additional water on it because that's the maximum, at least that we're aware of. Maybe that can change in the lake management plan, but I doubt it because I think it'll probably mess with floodplain, and I don't consensus of the steering committee was we don't want to tinker with floodplain because that's a huge undertaking.
Well, I
I'll go
think,
back to what Seth said with, we could drop it pretty fast in August. And maybe we do need to, at the next committee meeting, table it till then and discuss it at the next steering committee meeting.
yeah, and I didn't mean to push it in the wrong direction. I don't mean that I don't want to ever see the lake come down to 0.8. I just worry about dropping it to 0.8 in the springtime in that optimum growth period where we're going to have germination, and then whether we do a burn or we don't do a burn, we might have more cattail germination in the springtime, and then say we don't do a burn, then we're going to run the water level back up. Well, that's going to be optimum condition for cattail. So then it's going to thrive and grow some more. I think that it's, if we can do a burn, we're going to have to drop the level. I just wish we could wait till later in the year to do it. And I understand they want to see that level down to show that we can do it and we can be there. Otherwise, what's the point? They're looking at it like, what's the point? Because if we can't get it low enough, it's not going to do anything anyway. So I get that, but
You see, that's where they are restricted down in Horicon, because they really can't get rid of their water.
Sure,
They want.
They pump it out.
Can't put it down.
They can't put it downstream to.
They put it from one dike to the next. Or one
Right, they
pool
want
to
to
the next.
cool it in once. That they probably can do.
They absolutely
But
do.
they cannot get rid of it out, like possibly Ron said we can drop that.
Although they actually pump it from one pool to the next pool.
Wait,
Don't they, Dylan?
are you talking about Eline? Or
No,
are you talking about
talking about
Horicon?
Horicon.
Talking about the feds or the state?
Okay.
They pumped some from the steering committee. They said they had like 18 different impoundments or some number in the high teens, and Sadie said they only had a few electric pumps that can do that because they're very expensive to run, and most of the pools are managed by gravity. And
because they can't send too much down, because there's issues leaving that
In the Rock River.
Correct. So they cannot do a lot.
I have to interject. From what I'm hearing now is the potential for us to even burn in a given year or a certain number of times in a certain number of years that may or may not be effective. I'm voting for chemicals. I hate to say it, but smack them. High intensity certain areas. But I'm still in favor of the idea that we hire the muskrats. I have a hunch those suckers could do wonders out there.
The trouble is with the muskrats is that ship has kind of sailed in as much as it's the rank, what I say is rank cattail. It's not, the rats are not
They don't like them.
attracted to that. They don't like it, they don't want it, they don't go in there. That's one reason too with the burn is you start getting fresher stuff, even though you get cattails that come back. It's not the same quality, it's better quality, and the rats will go after it. So that's part of it too.
There's one more thing I don't understand with doing this burn. We drop the lake down like they tell us to do, and the burn is scheduled for March 1st, and we get a foot of snow on the level out there.
That's
It's all shut down.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
you're done.
Next year.
So we're dependent upon nature on that end.
Yes, I mean, it could be, you can have everything that they require up until the time you set the patch to it.
Yeah.
And then, but if it's too windy all the time, or snow, I mean,
But they would have a window to do that burn. It would just be this is the only day.
no. I
So
mean,
if it's
they're,
snow there and the snow is gone a week later, I assume there'd still be a window to try to burn.
It'd be really a possibility the burn would have to be like in the end of March when most of the snow is melted out there, but there's still enough ice for them to maneuver.
Possibly.
That's a
I mean, yeah, I mean, I ain't saying that's, but you can have everything as you want, but until that day comes and goes, when you know,
A lot of ifs.
they have their specifications, it's gotta be so. And which is, it has to be. But you can be all ready and then, it'll be fine, and then, it's not just going to wait for here, they have other places where they're probably set to go, so our time comes, well, now we're going here because we can't go, and then, oh boy, next week it would really have went, but they're busy someplace else.
I still think we should try for it. I mean, I think it's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Because anything to get some of them cattails burned off, just getting rid of the beginning of it, I mean, just scratching the surface is where we have to start. I'm fully, it needs to be burned.
Who do we have to let know if we're going to try to do this, or if we're in favor of having them do this? Who?
The water level management?
The burning.
Ooh, let's save that for later. Because this is the discussion of water level management in 2020.
Okay.
And we've got the Wisconsin Habitat Partnership Fund grant application for burning spraying. We'll shed a little light on that.
Okay.
Gary?
I'd just like to go with what the steering committee recommended. I mean, they thought about it, they had more people there, they were supposed to know more stuff. I'm saying they wanted the lake at a certain level. I'm saying go with what they, what's the point in having them if you're not going to go by some of them? I mean, you
Well,
can question
I'm on the steering committee, and as I told folks I'm all excited what we're going to do, and they said, what about this, what about this, what about this? And I'm like,
What was the actual
No.
recommendation? Sorry.
I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
The recommendation, I'll just read from the minutes. Plan that the water will be dropped to 0.8 feet from the PSC document, and depending on the results of the controlled burn grant application and the studies to be completed this coming year, the water level could be dropped further or held at that 0.8 level, depending on the specifics of a burn plan, or managed to be raised in July and August, consistent with the PSC document, should a burn not be on the horizon for the winter. So it was go back to the PSC order, and we'll figure out what the appropriate level is when we have more information. So the questions that we're asking here can be part of that conversation on what about the germinating more stuff, and what about dropping the water and the right conditions don't happen and there's no burn and we further entrench cattail. Because when they developed the burn plan, this would all be stuff that would factor into it. So I think there's a way to say good enough for today, we're interested to learn more, and we talk about this at another meeting. Because Ron, your water report, the lake flooded March 16th, all the snow melt was off and on the lake, and the lake didn't get down until April 10th, which tells me that's probably a good assumption for next year. Mid-April, the steering committee should have an idea, because mid-April is when you have to start deciding, do we want to hold it at 1.4 as a little extra water going into the summer, or do we really want to drop it? And they should decide that, or at least think about it more. But I'm with you too, Gary. It's like if the steering committee, it's got a bunch of technical people on it, and it's like drop it, just get it down, and I'm an accountant. It's like, okay. So what does the board feel? Good enough for today? And I'll put these comments at Melissa and the rest of the steering committee that the general meeting of Rush Lake Watershed is accepting of this approach, but would like to better understand these aspects. And given that the snow melt should roughly be gone by mid-April, the steering committee should plan to respond to those comments before mid-April, just to make sure we're all on the same page and we're not just saying good enough, and then it turns out, we just wanted to get done with the meeting, so we agreed that was the way to do it. I'm not saying that that's what happened, just...
When is the next typical board meeting? Is that April?
I think we'll be having one sooner than that, just because we're going to find out if we have a planning grant application in late February or March, so it would be April, but I'm going to advocate moving that up.
So can we table this discussion till that meeting?
That's fine.
Is there going to be a another meeting in between there, not for the board, but for the
Steering committee, yes.
steering committee?
There's none scheduled, but I'll tell our project manager, Melissa, that one needs to happen before then to dial in things like this. What, Ellen?
Twice a month.
Well, this stuff's important.
I'm
So-
not arguing. If it's important, they will come.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is I'll notify the steering committee that we are generally supportive of the approach, but we have a few concerns that we would like answered before mid-April for our further understanding of the approach.
Exactly. And I would think that hammering out the water level would be one thing, but there's so much cattail there that regardless of water level, it should still be attempted if it's possible.
So you think it's a good thing to do no matter what?
Absolutely. I mean, at least just the beginning, because I mean, we're not talking we're going to get down in and do big business. I think we have to take it with the hope of beginning to get some of the old off. I mean, it's like so many layers. Years have gone by, and we're not going to get that. You probably don't want to get that all going at one time because that would really generate so much heat.
Yeah.
But I mean, take it off in layers if necessary.
So that's actually an easier approach probably to sell to people in public.
What do we envision as far as how large of an area we're going to burn?
They haven't gotten that. That's a different topic. Yeah.
We'll get there.
I think that will be with the people that are going to be doing it. I mean,
Professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we can suggest it, but they're only going to want whatever they want to do. Depends how the lay of the land is. They may want to do a lot or try and do in sections. Because that's what I thought before. Maybe with that Marsh master, we could maybe make sections and then try spots and, do a little here and a little there. And,
Ron,
a lot of what they had to say.
there's some areas out there, like in the center of the lake or like in front of my area, and that stuff. There's some natural openings and there's some channels along there that you could probably use for margins and boundaries to do some of it. And maybe that's how you start out, is start small and then expand from there. Like I say, this is an experiment.
Mm-hmm. They backburn their windows into. Okay. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Let's keep her moving.
Yeah, so I'll carry those comments back to the steering committee and request that Melissa have some sort of steering committee meeting to revisit the topic of water level management and those specific questions. And she might just say, I'll send out an email and get responses. Because everyone on the steering committee has the steering committee minutes. But if you look at it, not every one of the steering committee meeting members were present. So perhaps some of these people didn't read the minutes and they haven't had an opinion one way or another. So Melissa might say, we don't need a meeting. I'll send out an email and say, you need to, whatever. We'll figure it out and it'll be an agenda item for a upcoming meeting. Before the lakes lost all its snow melt. Seem fair?
We have time.
Okay. Anything further on that? Otherwise, there's plenty more here. And I really don't want to table these for another meeting, so I definitely want to get into all of them to some degree. Okay. Next up, the 2020 Rush Lake Watershed Budgeting and Project Planning. Starting with carp monitoring. Seth, you said you've seen a couple of carp down there. Ellen gave us the permit thing over here, so if they show up, we'll do it like we had before and do our best to
You
get them.
actually got that before, that's just your paper.
I know you emailed it to me. Yep.
But
So-
now Gary has the paper.
Thank you, Alan.
You want me to keep this, or you want it?
He
You can
has
keep it.
one too.
Yep.
That's what you have.
So
the paper.
I stop down there every now and then with the girls, Seth, looking for them. Would you mind keeping an eye out? too,
Yeah, I
for 'em?
generally walk down there twice a day, all the time anyway. I walk the dog down there and walk my wife down there. So.
Cool.
Do you walk to the patrol?
No, we don't walk out that far.
So one neat thing, if we do get the carp out, we're looking for volunteers. When people did the questionnaire and came to the open house last year, good number of people put down their email addresses. So if it turns out, holy cow, they're in there, we're going to do this tomorrow, I can send out an email that touches 40 or 50 or 60 people. I don't remember how many people are on there, and we'll have a good chance of having some elbow grease to help us.
And obviously, I do still have the carp gates and that cage and the boom for the skid steer all piled behind my house. So if something happens and I'm not around or I don't answer the phone or whatever, and you guys need to put the gates in, feel free to grab them. I think Brat, you put them back there. You or Doug put them back there last year.
Bruce and I put them down.
Okay, so you guys know where they are. I haven't moved them. So if somebody needs to get them, I mean, go ahead.
Cool. Okay. Anything else on carp monitoring?
Will you be able to dispose of those? Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Your family can take care of that,
Yeah.
and then get chopped up and put on a field.
Crow food. Maybe I'll save them until they have lemons. Crow nut.
Seagulls. We'll wait till that turns off and we'll talk more about some of this.
All right.
Keep going.
Anything else on carp monitoring? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Rush Lake Dam and Wacaw Dam improvements. Doug, would you give us a quick update on those?
Yeah, there's not much different to change to talk about yet. Bob Wade was going to give me a call back. He'd asked me when I was out there with him in the fall, what was the urgency of fixing what had washed out this last year. And I said, well, there is no urgency right now, but there will be an urgency next spring. And I haven't been down there to see if they went in there, but I don't believe they went in there. I'll give Bob Way a call. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll give him a call and see if he has any plans. But it looks like right now, a lot of that is washed out. I don't think if you have a normal spring, I don't think the carp can get by it. If you have some major rains, they're going to get by it. We've got the plates sitting at Berlin to fix the dam up at Rush Lake, but we didn't get the template off, so I could cut these out and get them ready to do next spring. So there's a very good chance they won't be in carp time in the spring. Hopefully by May they will be. That's the improvement on the dam up at Rush Lake. So what our fail-safe system is, Ron, would be is to get the snow fence and just pull it across the front of the cliff. It works, it's simple to do, and it doesn't cost anything to do it. So that's going to, almost for sure, I'm going to guess, we're going to have to be really on top of that. Maybe Bruce and I can monitor Walker Creek to see if the carp are in there. If they start going up, we got to get the fence across there. Simple as that. So I don't know if there's any questions on it. That's what the plan is.
Is your snow fence still in good shape, or do you need to get a new one?
It's good. It's good.
I had a brand new one sitting in my garage, and I think
Okay.
somebody picked it up. I'm not sure who you picked it up. Did you pick it up?
I grabbed it, but when it got taken out, Ron, you kept
I've got it.
the snow fence.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's Fleet and Farm. It's, I don't know, it's $50 for a 50-foot piece of it, if we can't find it, but it was brand new. I don't think we used it at all, like once, if that. So that does work, but it has to be done before they come up with it. They'll do that overnight. If they get past Wapaw overnight, they'll be up at Rush Lake.
I have a question on that. Is that all public property where the dam and where the that side flowage off of the Waukah Creek Dam. Is that all public or is that private property?
Right, Walpole?
Yes.
It's all public.
It's all public.
Yeah, because
It was the DNR to start with for many, many years.
Right, but the county manages it.
And the county manages, or they have ownership on it?
I don't know, but the county manages it. I don't.
The reason I ask is just because I was looking at property on Zillow the other day, and the property that surrounds the Waukah Dam and the Waukah Pond and all that is for sale.
It's not, it doesn't get down as far as the dam.
Okay.
That is the old East vacant property, and it's actually, the fence line would be about, maybe 100 feet up from where the dam is.
Okay.
And then it goes all the way over to Lost Lake, and then it goes up behind Walpole where my property is.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that
It's
wasn't
not
going to be
there.
any
No, it's
conflicting
not there.
issue there. No.
Not
Doug, when it comes time to installing the plates on the Rush Lake Dam, that's something that I'd love to reach out to the email distribution list of people from the questionnaire and the open house to see if there's anybody. You know, we talked about having strong backs to do that, so if people want to come out and do that and see a part of the lake they don't usually get to.
Probably don't need overkill. 2 or 3 guys is all it's going to take. We started taking the one gate down to use it as a template, and we took the top 2 rows of bolts, and we didn't realize that there was another brace that I had put down in the bottom of it, which was underwater, and we didn't feel like shutting all of the gates off to do that. So I was really hoping I could get it out of the way. But it doesn't take that long.
That's fine.
A couple of days, time like the was ready to go. And then I need a little bit of help, but I think I can. Bruce said he can handle the whole thing. So.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Doug? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item in this budgeting and project planning. I put in the agenda DU project, but Brian Glunzinski took issue with me calling it that because it's not necessarily a DU project by themselves. So let's just call it 2020 Swamp Devil suggestions. We talked about this before, several meetings ago, so I think this will be relatively speedy. They're planning on getting the Swamp Devil in spring. Melissa provided some comments to me as well. In our previous analysis on it, this is the north end of the lake with the north boat landing up there, right where the cursor is at the top. And these are ones where Art was out on the lake and had some GPS points, and between where and this picture is aerial imagery from before the drawdown. So you can see all this water that's in here. This is water that used to be there before the drawdown of 2006 and 2007. So back when we met and talked about this a year or 2 ago, this is the proposal that we put forth to Brian. If the Swamp Devil could cut a path there and also diagonally here and out along the east shore. Melissa provided comments to me that said she'd like to be involved in identifying locations for Swamp Devil as it relates to potential burning on Rush Lake. The burn units proposed will be dependent on collaboration with the DNR and other parties, which will take place in the summer. So as far as feedback to Brian, I would propose saying this is what we talked about before. Here, we think it's historically where there was water and it could help with burning, but also we need to talk about it in the context of burning, and maybe there's a better idea out there.
So this would be for this summer,
He's talking about this happening in spring.
because before the water.
Yeah, like April. Which would be another reason you wouldn't want to pull the rug out, because maybe you'd want to hold it at 1-4 and, at the end of April when Brian might be having somebody out here with the Swamp Devil cutting channels.
Because on that shot across to the east, there's a lot of old bog in there. If the water isn't up a little bit, he's going to have a hard time getting through it.
Yeah.
I mean, you were out there, you know what it's like.
That line that they have there going from the landing from 2 o'clock down to 7 o'clock, that line there, that is real close to where the last opening was to that north end. That line is real close.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah, and you could see the water meandered, this is the line that it meandered up.
If he could follow that meandering trail, somehow that would be ideal.
Now, the only question I got is the other mark, the T, so to speak, and then going down to the bottom right. Isn't that the old path, the path that we dug in there? It's close to it.
Which one?
It wasn't a straight line.
This is the east boat landing.
No, the
It's
one that's in there now is
It's more
over.
over here, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes way down towards where the other line is and then back up again because they ran into some hard stuff a couple of times. They had to turn around.
Bring that back just for 1 second.
Nope. I'm going to give you something better.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where it is. So this is your east boat landing now. It comes out and then it wanders up through here. So you can see on this one, this is that meandering path that we saw on the other one.
Yep, that's it.
So that's where the line is, and then down here diagonally over here, and then down along the shoreline.
Bring your cursor up to 11 o'clock from there. Just go up there higher. Right now, come back. When we dug that thing right in there, we hit a high spot of ground in that area. That was one of the toughest spots to be in there. Remember that area? And Bruce and I, we staked that other part. So that's real close.
That's why, they were going to stay south of that a little bit by the looks of it. I mean, this is a little south farther than that hard spot, I believe. Yeah.
I'm afraid that 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock down there, the one that's diagonal, I'm afraid they're going to hit a lot of high down in there, but maybe not. It's worth a try. It only takes a day or less than a day to come.
The thing is with this is, if we have an idea of when they're actually going to get that in, then we can maybe coordinate better in time what we do on our drawdowns and that, or maybe even Ron doesn't get down here right after rain and gets a little higher or something like that until we get it off. I think it'd be in time.
I think those are great places to go if they're gonna, if we can get them through there, that'd be awesome.
Now, if they're out there, will we clean out what we've done in the past at all, or will we, in a way, be abandoning that?
That would be the question on that diagonal one.
Yeah, I don't know.
But even if we can get the new lines in there,
Yeah.
should we, that would go much faster, I would think, to clean out the old.
The old one that they did there is still there, and you can still get through with a boat. I mean, it's not like it filled back in.
Right.
Even if they took the channel that we made and then went up on the right-hand side, turned around and came back on the right-hand side, coming back.
Yeah, just
double
clean-
the size of it.
Yeah, just,
Yeah. I think if we go into that direction myself.
it'll go a lot faster than cutting the new one.
Oh, for sure.
And if they're there,
Yeah, and there's only one spot, like I mentioned, where the ground is higher than the surface.
Is it possible for them to try to hit that old meandering trail on the west side?
I don't know.
That would be ideal.
But just tee it up to them and see what happens. Who knows if you can even get the equipment out. But it helps create more access on the north end, and Melissa's comment, using this thing to help make burn breaks would be pretty important, especially if we're talking about burning. So I just propose that I send this to Brian and say this is what we have from the board. It's what we talked about the last time, some of the old pools on the north end and channels that were out there. But, we're thinking about burning too and making it count for that. We understand the machine's not going to be out there for a month just chopping around. It might only be a day, and you can only do so much. So
I would agree with that. I would also maybe mention, if they can, the main channel going from the first pond and the second pond, if you're coming from the south landing, that gets pretty tight and people go flying through there, and I've seen boats have to go off into the cattails to avoid hitting each other. So they might want to just make one more pass through there to open that up a little bit more, if they have the time and they're there to do so.
What
But
really would
I
make-
think they're coming off the north boat landing here.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
the one
So
thing-
they're probably not going to.
I don't know who the they is, and I don't know who.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, I'd rather they focused on on those other areas. Let those guys in those boats slow down.
where the two lines intersect there, from that point down out to where it comes out at 7 o'clock down there, the one thing that could be done, Art, is on the ice, we could probe like we did up on the bubble there to find where the deep water was, if they would agree to follow our meandering line, because it would be the most productive.
I still have the GPS coordinates.
You're perfect. Well, you do it there, but I meant from the T out down here to the bottom left.
Right.
Because there is an area in there that was the old, it wasn't ever big, but it was a series of little ponds and shafts between them, instead of just shooting a line straight across. Just a thing.
Well, it'd be nice, it's nice to meander, but at the very minimum is to get this in here, because that would be a nice break for the fire break.
I'd work for that too.
The only reason I say meandering, Art, is because those cattails probably are not as thick as the ones that have been there for 100 years.
Right.
If they can stay out of the ground, digging into the ground, they have enough water there to cut with their fan. That thing goes really fast. As soon as they hit where they don't have enough water, then it really slows it down. It really makes a difference. If you have water there, it's nothing to it. They can make that run there in half a day, if that.
Good stuff.
Okay, so is that what I said seem okay? I'll
Yep.
provide this to Brian. I'll share meandering would be a preference. There's the one dry knob that might cause a problem in there, but whatever. Widening the channel, widening the channels, possibly. I know they got spraying in there. We'll hit on that next. Having it have a max impact for potential burn.
Does the boat line, or does the dam need to be opened up again a little bit or not? Is that pretty good, the channels are good?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's the dam right here.
That looks pretty good.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice. Okay. Well, nothing else on that one. I'll go on to the next one. The herbicide spray areas in 2020. I'm going to pull up a map, and it's the spray map that we saw this past year. This was the proposed spray plan that was scrapped at the last minute because it was going to happen Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember which, the week leading up to the waterfall opener on Saturday. Melissa's comments on this, we had comments on this from our prior discussions, but Melissa's comments on this was a preference towards targeting access routes and areas where cattail is a monoculture and it's not mixed with other sedges or native plants that you would like. The historic aerial spraying, which has appeared most successful, is that square area. That was sprayed back in I don't remember the year exactly, but that was sprayed and it stayed open.
10 or 11.
Yeah, so, that was super successful. And you can see on here, too, some of these are new spray areas that were done in 2016. No. Is it 16?
I think so.
So,
17.
whichever the year.
Whatever, yeah.
This is one of the spray areas, and I was in there with a boat tooling around, and this is basically open water with 18 inches of water in it. It's opening up really great. And you could see this is a boat channel. It might be me, I don't know. I went all the way to the other end, and it's cattail stubble. It's water and cattail stubble. And some of those spray areas from the same year resemble that too. When I was out scouting for Jim Charles and his plant survey this last summer, I was on this channel going from the west shore up here, and then I chickened out here because I didn't know what was ahead of me. But these areas that were sprayed all had nice amounts of water in them with just cattail stubble popping up, but they were very open. So for whatever that's worth, it seems to validate Melissa's comment on spraying new areas instead of stuff that's been cattail since the beginning of time, like something like that right there. So anyways, back to Brian's map. Our comment from before was We didn't really like this one here because that could open the channel up to the dam wider, potentially, which would cause potentially more blockages of the dam with cattail bogs that are floating in that channel. So I'll go back to the other. This is satellite photography from this October, so this is as current as you're ever going to see it. So that area they're talking about spraying is right in here. So if you widen that, that's where you wind up getting more bogs potentially making it in from the lake. That was our contention before. So anyways, what was put to me, Brian said, look at the map, talk about it at your meeting. Whatever your comments are, provide that to Ellen because Brian works on the spray spots in conjunction with Ellen and her wildlife team. So whatever we talk about tonight, I'll pass the torch to Ellen from there.
Sure, okay.
Well, you told me that in your email too, Ellen.
Okay.
You did.
I'm not arguing. Go.
How much can we get sprayed?
It's about 100 acres, and that's about what's in Brian's grant application. He had a program that was to pay for this last year, which Brian informed me last week was not extended, and he didn't know why. So this is not happening unless the application that was submitted yesterday is awarded, or there's some reversing of course in the program that this was supposed to happen on last year comes to fruition somehow. I don't know. I don't know the particulars of it.
The DU program.
Yes. Yep. And it still is, because the grant application that was submitted yesterday was submitted by Brian Glimzinski, Ducks Unlimited, to include spraying cattail, this cattail that we're talking about, burning, and also Phragmites spraying, invasive Phragmites spraying, and mapping.
Could the area that, I don't know how many acres that is, that we kind of object to that one there, could that just be added to, say, the one up above it? Or have another area right around that area? You know.
We certainly could recommend it. I fully support your suggestion for, I'm going to tip my hand on something that falls in the other category for later, so I'm just going to take a real quick diversion if I can, and then I won't have to come back to it. I talked about this Phragmites small grant program where we got to buy aerial photography that had color photography and near infrared, and it's a hypothesis that Melissa was coming up with, that, hey, the native Phragmites turns brown, goes dormant before the invasive does. If you get the photography at the right time, you should be able to pick out the invasive Phragmites from the native Phragmites, and then you don't have to go out and hand identify everything necessarily. So we got the imagery. That's what this is. This is the color version of the imagery. I'm going to close that because I want to open up another one. This is color imagery also. This is the southern half of the lake. This is Island Road here. And right here, this thicket of stuff here is Phragmites that's just growing in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows what it is. Also, there's Phragmites that's growing here on Island Air Road that a number of people have inspected and deemed it to be native Phragmites, which is the kind you want to keep. And there's a third Phragmites stand over here, which looks kind of greenish in this picture, which I was inspecting, and Melissa inspected a year ago, and Todd, I think you visited that too this year. And this one is highly suspected to be invasive Phragmites, and I would dare to say it confirmed it's invasive Phragmites because of its color and texture and other reasons. So this picture doesn't look like much because it's just a color picture. But if I close that and pull up the infrared channel, the pinks are more vigorous growth. And
Sod farm on here?
yeah, this sod farm over here. So over here you can see this is one stand of Phragmites. It just looks like bland colored. Here we look on Island Air Road, and this Phragmites here is very bland color. But if we go down to that spot on the shore, that Phragmites looks like a raspberry bush. So Melissa's hypothesis that near-infrared imagery can identify your invasive Phragmites compared to native Phragmites looks to be very valid to me, to my untrained eye, but I can see color. So, to Art, back to your comment. If I go to the northern half of the lake in infrared, there's one Phragmites stand. There's several Phragmites stands that you could see from the north landing. Some of them are very close here, but there's nothing that pops out here. Like this is Phragmites here, that's bland colored. But if you go down, there's a red spot there. And the distance that this is from the boat landing is, because I could tell the distance with the map program that I have, how far this is, and it's about a half mile away from the boat landing, which to my just, casual observer eye looks like about the distance you can see it away. So because of that, this looks like invasive frag to me. So Art, your suggestion was, is there any way you can take that 10 acres and tack it onto the north? And I'd say, yeah, because what's currently in the north is it goes down and follows the channel across, but if we did nothing but expand it to make this shaped like a golf club, to make it come down here to this blue line and then connect down, that would cover that red patch of Phragmites that's in there. And also this blue line here, that's where the swamp devil got stuck and had to turn around back when. So if that whole area got sprayed, it's kind of nice because then there's channels on both sides of it, I think. So that would be my proposal for it. Take the 10 and move it up to there.
Yeah.
But
I think I know where that one, you don't know where it is I think that's somehow else correct. Or Steinman was not.
So, any other comments on this? Otherwise, I'll just shade in this map and I'll email it to Brian and Ellen and copy Melissa and say here's what we came up with at the meeting. Hopefully it can happen in 2020.
Sounds good.
Nothing else on it?
Can you back up to one of those maps you were showing over by you in that area there?
Down on the south? Or the northern half of the lake?
Kind of where you live down there. It was one of that map. It almost looked like
Do you want color? You want the regular color or the infrared?
the infrared.
Okay.
It almost looked like a muskrat holes there in that one. Yeah, see right to the left? Right there. Right where you are. There. Are those all muskrat?
Back when they were out there, thick, probably.
Well, this was just taken, wasn't it?
This was October 25th of this year.
That's where they had eaten it out and had their houses probably.
But that's what that is, isn't it? Those are little pockets of open water, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's water.
Yes.
That's got to be from muskrats.
Sure.
That's what I was hoping was going to happen on the whole lake of muskrats.
It was. The trappers and Mother Nature took care of it. More Mother Nature.
Well, it didn't take care of it. They're there.
No. Oh, that way. They're more prominent with higher water, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe they did do some of that.
Okay, anything else on spraying? We've got...
One quick question. If we had more money, could we do more? It's kind of an open-ended question. Do we want to do more?
Possibly, but the spraying is part of a grant application that's just shy of $200,000 for a total project. So you could conceptually do more, but the proposed project is all done with a handful of grant programs. So there's no Rush Lake watershed contribution or special fundraiser contemplated, but if there were, potentially. The only thing I struggle with spraying is, like, it was like the 5th most supported thing in the questionnaire for management techniques, and it was only about 2/3. So, like, if I think about things to go for, I'm less enthused about spraying than I used to be, just because the people.
But it's the most effective.
Yeah, I'm saying, you gotta go with what's gonna work.
We're gonna be getting into some issues here in the future, I think, because of the whole glyphosate cancer thing too, because that's what they're using to spray them with. It's aquatic glyphosate. And it's been on the news and on the TV more and more about people joining the bandwagon suing about this glyphosate issue.
It's not on the news, it's on the ads.
Yeah, those are attorney ads.
Yes.
Anyway, people see it, they're gonna get nervous about it.
The thing I don't like about it is glyphosates or imazapyr or whatever, it's an indiscriminate killer. So if you spray it on stuff and it's 40 acres and you had some bulrush in there and you had some sedge in there, you just killed all your good stuff too. Where if you torch it, the cattail burns off and the bulrush might have a better shot at, repopulating that way instead of spraying it where everything dies. Because then you have no bulrush. So, I don't know. So to answer your question, yeah, with more money, sure, probably more, but I don't know, we did 150 acres back the last time there was spraying. I say we, meaning the DNR led that, and we contributed an extra 50 acres by contributing in the project. So,
have you noticed in any of the pockets?
We didn't spray that much, did we, last time?
150.
Nah. I didn't think it was that many acres.
I thought that was the one that was scheduled and never happened.
That was this.
No, that was this one. We're talking about the one in 16 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
So, I don't mean to slow things
No, that's fine. And this is something that I'm sure will be discussed at steering committee after adaptive management work group too, so. Okay, so what I'll pass along is a suggestion to scratch the 10 acres that's on the channel leading to the dam and to expand the northern one to make it shaped more like a golf club where it extends to the eastern channel that the Swamp Devil got stuck on and rejoin to the south to square that off. If nothing further, we'll move on to the next thing. It is 9:30, that hasn't escaped me. General operating expenditures and budget. Sounds boring, it's not. These are worth handing out. I got one more. Just hand the whole thing down, Gary. We can slide these this way. This is our balances at year end at the top of the schedule, and then it walks down all of the spending that we have to do by monetary bucket throughout the year. So, first line, insurance to make sure if somebody files a lawsuit against us, we can be defended without having to pay our own money to hire our own lawyer and defend ourselves in court because something goes wrong and they blame us because we did this management plan that wasn't any good or we're a party to it. The next series are paying Stevens Point, Stantec, and Wisconsin Lake and Pond for the plant survey. Phragmites imagery, that's an in and out. The lake management plan, that's the $1,400 I was talking about before. Oh, that's pretty zoomed out. Is on there. The phase 1 completion for 3155, that comes out of the unrestricted cash bucket because we have to complete phase 1 and pay for it and submit a request to the DNR after it's completed to reimburse us for the remaining 25% of the grant costs. So that's where, if you go down a little further, there's an inflow of $6,250. That's the DNR's approval of our phase 1 techniques, which we talked about before, and then them releasing us that $6,250. That, because we have to float $6,200 in the middle of the year, we are going to find ourselves with a very limited treasury, just 1,000 or two. I could do the math in here, but it's no matter because the same effect happens at the end of 2020. Because we'll finish the lake management plan, and the plan isn't done until the DNR approves it. So we don't get reimbursed the final 25% of the phase 2 grant until after the plan is approved. So that means we have to advance that money to pay for the project while we wait to be reimbursed from the DNR. Which means with these numbers in here, at year end, we're going to sit with a treasury of $686. We're excited to receive a reimbursement from the DNR of $6,250. The X factor in here is if the project does have a cost overrun. I don't know how you pay for that when you have $600 on the project. So cash is very tight, and it's largely because of timing. And as far as the items go above, other things that are in there, we pay the $500 to Stevens Point for that stream testing that I mentioned before, finishing up the Rush Lake Dam upgrade with the ancillary parts, Doug, that we had $209 left on the resolution that we approved before, that we approved up to $1,200, and we spent just under $1,000 on the steel. We'll make some money at the Brat fry, put in $350, and then we'll do our business registrations, and that's kind of what she is. So I don't know if there's any real discussion to be had on there other than we're not flush with cash, and we're lucky to have the donors that we have and the support that we do, because if we had to pay for the planning project on our own dime completely, we wouldn't have enough money to pay for it without asking for a loan from somebody. But we have enough to squeak by. So any questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Supporting the Winnebago habit. This might be worth a resolution or authorization. I have the corporate insurance in for $1,000. That was, I think we paid like $800 some for it this year. That was us getting a discount. Technically, the minimums were supposed to be charged $1,000 minimum, but we got like I'll call it a Good Samaritan discount. So I just say, make a motion to authorize $1,000 to continue the director and officer and general liability insurance for one more year, consistent with this year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second for up to $1,000 to extend the director and officer and general liability policies for another year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstain?
Is that Art and Bruce?
What?
Art and Bruce.
I move.
Ron and Bruce.
All right.
Bruce second.
Okay. Great. On to the next one. The long-awaited Wisconsin Habitat Partnership Fund grant application. This was submitted yesterday by Brian Glinzinski. It's for spraying cattail that we talked about, and spraying invasive Phragmites, and also remote mapping invasive Phragmites. I provided a letter of support for the grant application that Brian submitted because it is in Ducks Unlimited's name. And some of our planning activities from our planning project do serve double duty, so I was able to pledge $1,750 of match towards the project, which helps pay for that grant application. The spray block program I mentioned isn't believed to be continued, so spraying falls within this grant application that includes burning of Rush Lake. And the total project's $199,520. The total application is for $132,000 and change from the Wisconsin Habitat Partnership Fund, and another $59,750 from other grant programs, which there are a number of candidates, NRDA and Sustaining Our Great Lakes, to name a couple, but that's where fundraising could help too if there's a shortfall or something, and it's a conversation for another day. But anyways, the project puts forward the concept of burning, which has a price tag of $167 and change, spraying for $14,000 and change, and phragmites of $17,000 and change. For burning, it's a concept of burning up to 2,300 acres, determined in concert with collaboration with the DNR and partners. So when I spoke with Melissa today, because I first saw this grant application when Brian after he submitted it, I was struck by the ambition in the application. So basically, it's a proposal to burn 2,300 acres, but it needs to be developed in conjunction with our partners at DNR and the steering committee and the scientists that we're working with. So I don't think anyone will accuse us of not aiming high or accuse Ducks Unlimited of aiming high on what they're trying to pursue. I have no further...
Cost of burning again?
167, 650 is what's in the application. So, I don't know what to say about it other than that's Brian Glodzinski submitted it. The applicant's name is Ducks Unlimited.
So that's a random, if it's approved, do you use that much funding to use on it?
They'd have, if the grant as submitted were approved, DU will have won an award for $132,000 of a total project that costs $199,000. So there would still be more money to raise, and that gets into other grants and executing the work, which is sort of the companion topic to this one.
If we don't use it, do we lose it?
I don't know.
Okay.
And it's not we, it's DU.
Yeah.
DU determines where it's going to end up priority-wise.
But that grant is, we would still, or somebody would still have to come up with a difference. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but that's where there's other grant programs that can be applied for. And that's where Melissa tasked me with coming to a resolution on that tonight, because the question is for that other 60 grand or whatever. Who applies for those grants? Do we apply for it in our name? If we apply for it in our name, do we have to do the contracting? Or do we just hand it over to DU?
Question on the DU. The DU will control where the 2,000 gets burned. Are we talking all of this is about Rush Lake, or are we in the mix?
This application is only Rush Lake.
Only, so we would go with the full acreage. Okay.
This is only Rush Lake.
Good.
And the acreage, it's a concept.
Right.
That's important words. So like at the Town and Nepieskin meeting on Monday night, the message is not 2,300 acres of Rush Lake is getting burned next winter. There's a concept of burning up to 2,300 acres in conjunction and in concert and collaboration with the DNR and other partners.
I have to back up just because I'm slow. So 132,000 plus from DU. So The 59,750 from other
Give that to Tom,
grants.
please.
The 132 isn't from DU, it's a
A
grant.
grant that DU was, that,
Are you sure that's the same thing that we have?
If it's what Brian submitted, it should be.
Pretty sure it is.
Yep. It is.
I see.
Brett,
Yes.
with all the discussion on all this, I think it's going to be imperative that at our next steering committee meeting, that Brian's included either in person or on the phone so that we can discuss some of this stuff. Let's put it this way, I hope that it's possible.
So will be most likely in person.
But I mean, on the phone.
Possibly. Possibly. Yeah. Because he's only all by himself for the state. And he is everywhere.
Okay.
That's how that goes. That's, yeah.
I'll give you the speak talking now.
That one comes down to handling that.
I'd say the next steering committee meeting or at the active management work group meeting, and I'd say,
I can just keep that.
oh, thank you.
You have to take pictures.
Oh, I'm
I'd say
calculating.
two things about it. One, Brian didn't come up with this in a vacuum. Melissa worked with Brian to draft this based on her understanding of things coming up. So this isn't just Brian; they were working together. But also, I forgot. Melissa has brought up the need to have the adaptive management work group reconvening to talk about this stuff, because to date we've met once with Sadie and Horicon talking about what does Horicon do and what do they think. So that work group needs to reconvene, and I think sooner is better than later, probably. So I'll tee that up with Melissa. Adaptive Management Work Group reconvene with Brian. It should be the full Adaptive Management Work Group, because Tracy Hames with Wisconsin Wetlands Project is on that too. Yeah. So, as far as the other grants, I'll sort of change topics ever so slightly to the other grants and executing the work, and start with the stuff that's pertinent to this one. The question that Melissa put to me is, who should the applicant be? Does Rush Lake Watershed want to apply for the other 60-some thousand in grants, or not? And if not, then that would need to be somebody else, which could be DU, or it could be the town, or towns, or it could be the county. But the project would need, that 60,000 to happen, because you need to have a local share piece. And just thinking out loud, even if there wasn't another grant, but you had just one award, would 60,000 be an unreasonably high amount of money to fundraise in a year if you had burning the whole lake as the project, because it's going to be really great? And I say that as somebody who doesn't fully understand how it would be executed, but you would only do it because it would be great, right? You wouldn't do it because it's stupid. So, 60,000 to me, while a big number, seems like an attainable fundraising target if you had a moonshot kind of thing, if there wasn't another grant. And I'm not saying I want to bite off a $60,000 fundraiser right now, because last year we fundraised about $1,000. So,
you want to see your family still.
Yeah, I would like that. So the question to us is, who should the applicant be? Personally, I don't think we're the right party right now, because Brian was the applicant on the other one, and that was one that I told Melissa I wasn't comfortable being the applicant with Rush Lake Watershed on, because A, we would have had to have a special meeting to have an authorizing resolution so I could submit a grant application on behalf of us. B, I don't know anything about contracting large-scale controlled burns on a public lake. And C, fire is a powerful force of nature. And if something bad happens, we can't have our butts on the line as the only thing. The right structure needs to be in place so that if something bad happens, that everybody's taken care of. And it's not like, oh, well, it's too bad because Nancy, Doug, Bruce, Seth, Ron, Gary, Brett, Todd, Chuck, Mark, Art, and Bob, they can all lose their houses because this is their thing. And what the insurance agent told me was, because I teed it up with Mabel Insurance, so we're looking at doing spraying cattail, burning cattail, spraying Phragmites, and removing curly-leaf pondweed. What do you recommend? And he said, well, here's the thing. Your D&O and your director and officer and general liability policies won't apply. We will not defend you unless you and your directors are named as, like, they would hold us harmless. And the way our contract reads with Stantec today is we hold Stantec harmless. So if Stantec burns down Winnebago County, we would stand up in court and say, our bad. So I wasn't comfortable pursuing the applying for it because I didn't think there was a chance that we could say, hey, maybe Stantec would be willing to change their contract. So instead of us saying, we'll totally take the blame, we need them to say, no, we will take the blame. I didn't like our chances of negotiating that change quickly. So Melissa asked Brian if he was open to applying, and he said yes. So those concerns still stand with the other grant applications. I'm very much concerned about our personal liabilities. We're all here pretty much for nothing. We're just trying to do the right thing, and we need to make sure that we're not walking ourselves into something that we don't want to walk into. So as it stands today, I would advocate that Stantec ask, and we work with Ducks Unlimited to see if Brian would be willing to apply for the other 60 from these other programs. And if that weren't a possibility, then we would explore other avenues such as towns, counties, fundraisers, what have you. But that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, question.
Yes?
So that first grant that Brian has is that
30 something,
okay.
32 something.
Provided we burned 2,300 acres or whatever. So say we end up burning and we don't burn all of that. Can we take any of that leftover money if you can go to DU to up it over to another grant of unused?
I don't know, Nancy. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Look at that.
Okay, I didn't know if that would be, okay.
I think you gotta get, it
They're
says
separate.
up to that acreage, it doesn't say that's how much.
It's a concept.
So,
It could get approved for a much less amount of money.
I've got that money thing sitting in my head, so I didn't know what we didn't use, if we did up to, and if we did, could we just
That's for the
could you just what?
roll it over?
That's for the applicant to worry about. And it's one reason I made the comments I did earlier tonight, because if we're the applicant, then Brett's managing the rollover on the grant from one year to the next, and or somebody on this board is managing the grant rollover from one year to the next. And the beauty of it is you don't have to worry about that, Nancy. That's what, you leave that with Ducks Unlimited, who does this stuff all the time.
Do you need a motion on that, have them do it?
I'd make the message real easy for Melissa. We had a motion that Rush Lake Watershed doesn't want to be the applicant at this time on those.
I move that the board recommends that DU be the applicant for the other amount, 60,000 or whatever it is.
I second that.
Okay, so motion made by Art and seconded by Bruce that DU be the applicant for the second amount.
Correct.
Then I'll bracket it about 60K. About 60K. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries unanimously.
So this is, this is the total, this is the grant.
Yep.
All right.
And that's the
This is
extra.
That's extra, but
Yep.
these two for that. What about that? These two numbers equal that, that's not that. There's still 7,600 short.
Yeah, that's a math error. That's a math error. I don't know what it's.
I don't know if it's important or not, but it's another $7,600.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's. You could see it in the third one, Todd. Like the total is 14 grand, and the grant request is 11, and there's something's not adding up, top to bottom, but it's in the neighborhood. Okay, so that's definitive. On this topic, Melissa did mention to me that this question is kind of a long-term question with how does the organization want to pursue things like this long-term? Because you can go out and do a project like this 1 year, but the lake management plan is going to come back and, recommend a certain approach over the long haul. How will you handle that? Will you be applying? Will the towns or the county be the applicant? You're going to use Ducks Unlimited for forever? And what I told her is, I don't know. That's the point of the lake management plan, so that we know what we're getting into, and then you can actually have, and I mean you, meaning everyone collectively, can have meaningful conversations on how does this get executed over the long haul. Because, our organization could do this, because one of the other feedbacks from the insurance agency was, you can do this stuff and bear all the risk, and you can go out and buy insurance. Well, if we went out and did an annual gala and had fundraising every year that was big enough to put money, many tens of thousands in the treasury, we could pay for it on our own if we did it. Other people have floated the idea of setting up a sewerage district or whatever and taxing the local people to pay for this stuff. I'm frankly not a fan of taxing people to do a bunch of stuff on a lake that might not represent the full interests of all the people who would pay the tax, but that's a question for another day. That's the value of the plan. So it's something that everyone needs to think about, and how do we make that happen long term? Okay. Any other questions or comments on the Brian thing with the burning or that grant? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, I'll rapid fire through the other grant and executing the work. The Phragmites imagery I showed you before. I've requested the Webster Foundation a grant for the 2020 Lake Management Plan. Talked about this other thing before with other grant sources. Curly leaf pondweed, there's early response control grants that we can go for to remove curly leaf pondweed from Rush Lake. That one's a much less dangerous type of management. Basically, you hand pull or suction up the curly leaf pondweed that's on the lake, and the plant survey last year found one spot. So that was one where it seemed much easier for us to apply for that grant and contract that potentially without bearing a lot of risk, because if somebody's hand pulling weeds off the bottom in one spot, what kind of bad stuff's going to happen from that? That'd be pretty easy, I think, to wind up with some fine print that doesn't put us all on the hook for something like a 2,300 acre burn. So that's one that I'm going to work to explore a little bit further. And as far as the legal fine print and making sure that we're protected, I reached out to George Curtis. He filmed the It's Your Environment episode at the open house. He said he'd be willing to look over our shoulder on some of this legal stuff without charge to help make sure we're not, driving the car off the cliff or anything like that with this stuff. So He and I have been in communication, and I'll continue to work with him. And as the curly leaf pondweed topic gets more discussion, I'll certainly put it on the agenda for future meetings as needed if we need a resolution or whatever. Okay. That covers all of that. There's one other topic in this section for the other technique. The Marsh Master Bob called me asking to put that on the agenda. Bob, would you please speak?
Well, Stantec is not here, but all I wanted them to do is to get more information, especially if we could see a demonstration and give us what prices could be, and if somebody owns one that we could rent or they could work for us. And so just get back to them and tell them we want more information. That's been 6 months since they brought it up.
I'm kind of confused.
I don't know. Well, what's different from now in January, Bob? Because you brought this up in January and we spoke for about 10 minutes about it, and I don't understand what's different today, because we talked about that it was brought up at the Adaptive Management Work Group and that it was lower on the totem pole because controlling natural variables like water and muskrat populations by helping them out with burning are far more impactful than a mechanical control like that. And because of that, mechanical control, other than Chuck made the comment that you need it to create burn breaks, other than that, it's really not a priority unless DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, takes their equipment out and just goes and starts doing it for fun, which would be great if you want to. But I don't want to go back to Stantec and say we need more information, because I don't think we need more information. I think it's been resolved that it's not a priority and we're not doing it except for helping with burning.
Okay.
But I don't know. That's my take on it. Does anybody have a comment?
Just questioning about using the Marsh Master to get rid of cattail.
That was with the roller thing on the back.
That attachment to go over
With attachment. All right.
I'm going to assume that would be a more costly way of doing things than some of the others like spraying or fire.
That's been some of the feedback I've heard, that mechanical is costly with operators and they don't move very fast.
Small ponds and things like that were the considerations.
Plus there have been, I've heard it a number of times, concerns with if you cut it, you remove it kind of stuff here and there, so it's costly, maybe a can of worms to get into. I don't know, but
some of those places are literally harvesting it or whatever.
Okay, I don't know. Sorry, Bob. Does somebody have a different take? Because I don't mean to like snuff out Bob's comment, but honestly, I don't want to spend any time on it. But if somebody else wants to hassle Mosa about it, you're welcome to it. That includes you, Bob. You can reach out to her.
Well, if you got a grant that you're going to try burning, I guess you'd better do that first.
Maybe revisit this in a couple of years after.
Because there may be some places you can't get with the burning, and this may work for a certain location.
Or it might work for a specific invasive species too.
Might work to tear up some of that stuff you said that's banked down after you do burn.
I wouldn't don't just throw it out, but for right now, it's not going to be a priority. See how it goes, and it may work out somewhat. Absolutely.
Okay, so put it down as a table for now, but it's a neat technique for sure. Okay, anything else on that topic? All right, we're approaching the 3-hour mark, and the rest of this should go pretty smooth. Next up, scheduling next Rush Lake board meetings. There's a whole pile of topics we could talk about. The applications for grants, which Curly Pondweed would be one, and George Curtis offered that he could talk to us about risk and contract writing if we want to have him. So that's something that could be in a meeting. We should find out about winning our Phase 2 Lake Management planning grant in the middle to late February. So we could have a meeting after we win that award, either like February 20th or March 12th or 19th. When the focus of that meeting would be Melissa, being the project manager, speaking about all this different stuff, how it's going to get executed, timelines, if there's specific questions to Melissa on how do you get comfortable with water level management, what are these devices that you're going to be using, we want to understand more. That would be more the flair of a meeting like that. We could have a general spring meeting also, a general summer meeting. I mentioned before the plan rollout meeting is at the end of August, so to have a special meeting where we review the plan here before we share it with the public, so we could say we've reviewed it before it's been provided for your review. Also, Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance has, their Fox Wolf Winnebago Lakes Restoration Project and how Rush Lake and 8 Mile Creek ties in. Jessica or Corinne from Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance would be willing to come here and talk to us about their project and how this watershed fits into it. My thought on that one is that would be a really neat thing, during the comment period on the questionnaire, like before the event, and the rollout meeting on October 19th. That's a real date that's scheduled. And then we could also have another November or December meeting next year to review or approve the final plan after the comment period. So if I just tally all that stuff up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's 7 potential meetings if you include the rollout event. And personally, just with public engagement and getting people involved, I'd like to schedule the meetings as early as possible. Perhaps pick the dates tonight, because then it gives people something that they can count on and when and what's the spirit of it. For example, if you just work backwards, the rollout meeting's on October 19th. Plan on it. The Thursday prior, we're having special guest speaker, whoever from Fox Wolf Watershed, to talk exclusively about their project and how this watershed fills in. So it's almost like the pre-open house meeting, because you can get a lot more understanding of how we fit in from, the Fox Wolf Watershed people before the rollout meeting. So that would be pretty nifty. Thursday, September 24th, Melissa said, we should meet probably 10 days or so before we would roll it out to the public. So that one we could pin down pretty good. And the rest of it, a general spring or summer meeting or a post-grant award, those are more flexible. But I'd like to pick the important dates, if at all possible now. We could table them till later, but, I'd just love to have a nice cadence as we go into this, so everybody's planning on these dates, and here's what we're going after.
I don't know how this affects everybody else, but if there was any chance we could do some meetings on Mondays or Tuesday nights, and that would be favorable for me. I have to take vacation every time we have a meeting on Thursday.
Mondays are tough with the town hall because plan commission, and I know other towns meet and everything. Tuesdays are, the town hall's generally free, Ron, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So I don't see any objection with Tuesdays.
And if it's going to throw a big wrench in everybody else's gear, I don't want to, don't do it on my account. If it doesn't matter to anybody else, I would prefer to do it on a Tuesday so that I don't have to take vacation to be here. I mean, I'll do what I have to do, but sometimes I can't get off and then I can't be here.
Tuesdays works for
That works, yeah.
Okay. Well, how about this? I tear off these little stubs and give to everybody on when the next meeting is, so I don't have to mail anybody a letter. But if we pick a bunch of dates, I'll just mail everything to everybody. Because what I'd want to do is have like a first stab at what we would want. Then I talk to these people, like I talk to Jessica at Foxwell, say here's 2 options. We have Tuesday and we have Thursday of that week for, the meeting for you to come and speak. Do you have a preference on either one of those? And then once I get a little more clarity on that, I can mail out here's the dates thing. Or we could just pick the next meeting and do it piecemeal like we have been. Whatever everybody wants to do. It's just my thought that picking a number of these dates can be useful. And it doesn't have to be all. We could pick some.
You want to pick them tonight? Or you need to meet, you need to talk with those folks first?
No, well, I'm happy to pick some of them tonight. Like the plan review.
Sure, let's do it. And I have no problem with Tuesday either.
So we want to do something in the end of February yet, or March?
If we, if it's a Tuesday, I would want to punt it to March for after we have the award. And if we did punt it to March, we could forego an April general meeting, wouldn't you think? Because we'd be talking about the lake management plan, and what would the meeting be like? Ron would say the lake's ice, so the dam's not a lot different. I'm not spending much money now. I'd just be paying bills that Stantec has and Wisconsin Lake and Pond. So we could make that be the double duty meeting. So like March 10th or March 17th.
17th is St. Patrick's Day.
Let's have it that day.
You can bring the green beer.
Bring the green beer. I'll bring the beer.
So how about Tuesday, March 12th, which would be
Thursday?
or the 10th. The 10th.
Tuesday the 10th.
March the 10th.
Tuesday, March 10th, 7 p.m. here, and that would be
The second Tuesday of the month, I don't need a sticker, and I can forego it. No.
I have another board meeting that night too.
First and second Tuesdays of the month. I have a problem with Tuesdays, it's just which week does it fall into?
Tuesday.
The 3rd is too early?
I'm in Florida.
It's too early.
Well, what's
Seth might have to take it.
That's okay.
Well, for March, can we do it on the 16th, on a Monday?
Well, it's a location.
Board meeting will be here
I'm sorry.
night.
It's the second,
This is
second
half a
Monday.
year,
Is your second Monday also?
The second Monday is the 9th.
16th is the third Monday.
16th is the third Monday.
Well, it wouldn't be about
fine?
Yeah.
March 16th.
No, they do.
The town board meeting is
Town
here on
board
March
meeting is the
16th.
third
When's the
Monday
planning?
of every month.
When is the planning?
The Monday before.
So the 16th.
The 9th and the 16th.
Third Monday?
Yes, third.
Oh, so the 16th.
We can't get in here.
So is the week of the 24th too late?
The only thing that stinks about it is if we win a phase 2 grant award, it'll already be a month out from it. And some of these things with the grant, I like that meeting to help build enthusiasm on some of this stuff, because some of these things do need volunteer effort, and I'd like to delegate some of that. So, and like, for example, water sampling. I don't want to do water sampling anymore. I've done it plenty long. Some people have put on the questionnaire that they'd be willing to do the water sampling. I don't want to wait too long, and then it's, oh, well, I've got plans now for the summer. I want people, if somebody really wants to, it's not like they'll come on a drop of a hat. I want to get started with that earlier rather than later. And if we don't win a grant award, I'm reluctant to do any water sampling next year because what the budget showed me is if we win another grant the year after, we'll have negative money in the till. So I'm reluctant to spend any money on sampling unless there's a grant award next year. So, but I don't want to start getting someone on board with the concept before we know whether we're doing it or not. You know.
Seth, do you work Friday nights?
I work every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, always, and I work 2 to midnight. But it is what it is. If you guys can now find a Thursday that works, I'll just.
What about the 25th of February? Would that be too soon?
What's on vacation? Are you on vacation, Carp?
Yeah, I can't make that.
All
I'm sorry.
Town of Ripon, I don't think anything's going on at our town hall on the 3rd Monday. But I don't know if you guys want to be at this town hall.
Well, what's the difference? Or what meeting?
I mean, we can, I'll check and make sure there's nothing going on that day, but
Yeah.
So
pretty
when
sure
are we
there
back-
isn't.
When are we back to then? The 16th of March?
It would just be a different location
right,
if we're okay to do that.
yeah.
What works best for you?
I'd love to do it the week prior. Either on the
Week of the 9th?
10th or 12th. Yeah, the week of the 9th. Or the
10th would work for you, Seth.
Or
wouldn't
the-
it?
Yeah, the 10th is fine for me.
or the 17th. 17th. If we win an award and the DNR tells the people who won awards on the same timeline as they did last year, we'll find out that we won an award or didn't win an award on Monday the 17th of February. And so Monday the 24th of February I can do. And the town hall here is open on that day because there'd be nothing at the 4th Monday of February, Ron. That'd be clean.
Yes. February 24th?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So Monday, February 24th. We'll plan on that being should we plan on that being the spring meeting and grant award meeting, so we forego one in April?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Monday the 24th of February?
Yep. 7 p.m. here. So phase 2 grant. And also, too, we'd have an update on what the other applicants are, because the 2 grants that Melissa and I talked about that we recommended tonight that DU applies for, those have February due dates before then. So we'll know what happened after that. Okay, so we'll forego an April spring meeting. A summer update meeting, there's really nothing heavy to put on the agenda, so we could forego scheduling that tonight. Can we look at the plan review meeting? So Melissa and I talked today. The rollout event is Monday the 19th. If we put the plan on our website and make it available for public consumption 2 weeks before, that's the 5th of October. And she recommended we meet a week or two, call it 10 days beforehand, so that we can review it and provide any critiques that are necessary before it goes public. So if I go look into September, I threw out the 24th because that's a Thursday, but it could slide earlier or to the
September 24th.
Yeah, Monday the 28th. I mean, the
28th is a Tuesday. I'm sorry. Never mind. I have a 2-year calendar.
So I'd love to pick a date for that one. Just the important thing on that is it sets the tone for Stantec that you have to have the lake plan done for us on that day. So you have to make it happen. Or else the whole schedule's shot.
I would vote for the 22nd. Or you're looking for Thursdays.
Doesn't matter to me. It's the town hall is occupied on Monday the 21st with the board meeting.
So let's do the 22nd and it works for Seth.
Works for me.
Tuesday the 22nd of September, 7 o'clock here. Okay, so Tuesday, 9/22, 7 p.m. here. And I got my calendar up to October now. The plan rollout meeting is on Monday the 19th. That September 22nd meeting should focus just on the plan itself because we just need to get that done. So an October meeting to have Jessica and Corinne speak about how we fit into the broader scheme of things with Fox River, Winnebago Lakes. But we could also just take care of our normal nuts and bolts treasury report and whatnot then also. So, the Tuesday or Thursday prior, the 13th or the 15th, or we could even have it be after the plan rollout event, because maybe people would have questions about things that they might want to bounce off Corinne.
I would say
And
after for that reason, and the split season is the 15th, if we want to get hunters here that are around.
yeah.
Because it's a late opening this year, I believe. Does it matter?
No, I think it's important to pick a day that is in the window of when people can comment on the plan. Because if someone says, hey, this plan says this, what do you people at Fox Wolf say? How does that impact your plan? That might change the way someone makes a comment about it. So that week would be fine.
Which week?
The week or even the week after the rollout event.
29.
Yeah, the week of the 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime that week. Because, again, it's the fourth Monday of the month, so we could have it here, potentially.
On the 27th or on the 26th or 7th.
Yeah.
Either one's fine with me.
In October,
Yes.
Yep.
do we have to worry about hunting at the phone?
No.
Who cares?
Okay.
Should we just be safe and do it on the Tuesday,
Yeah, why don't you do that?
27th.
27th of October?
Sure.
What, you brought it up.
Does that work?
You want people to come, and it's a Monday night football game.
That's fair.
Especially if the Packers are.
I would say.
Well, somebody could look that up, because the schedule's probably already set.
No, it's not.
So you all know that already. Why do you know that?
I know that.
Okay.
Here.
You know who they're playing, not
Depends
when.
upon
So,
how the Packers
Tuesday,
do.
October 27th at 7 p.m. here.
Yes.
All these meetings are set up.
Yep.
And they're all here.
Okay. So we picked 3, and I'll send this out in mail so that everybody's got a sheet in front of them with it. But we're going to plan on a combined post-phase 2 award meeting. One second. So we're going to have a post-phase 2 award meeting on March 10th, which is a Tuesday at 7 p.m. Wait.
24th.
Monday the 24th. That's why I repeat this. Thank you.
February 24th.
We have the post-phase 2 award meeting / spring meeting on Monday, February 24th at 7 p.m. here. I'm going to ask Melissa to prepare for doing pretty much all the speaking about the lake management plan and be ready to answer questions and to help drive the conversation. Okay, so that's one. The September meeting on Tuesday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. here. That meeting will be our review of the draft lake management plan. So I'll communicate to Melissa that they need to hit that date for our review. And the other meeting we agreed to schedule was Tuesday, October 27th, which is after the plan rollout meeting on the 19th. The Tuesday, the 27th meeting is at 7 o'clock here, and the purpose of that meeting is to have Jessica or Corinne from Foxwolf Watershed Alliance speak about their project and how we fit in, but also just like a general update for fall, as we wouldn't have to talk about much else because we've just gotten out of 2 other meetings between the rollout and the review meeting beforehand.
The rollout is the 19th.
Monday the 19th.
That's a rush.
That's at Vines and Rushes, and it'll be like the open house. We'll have info booths set up, and it'll be running during dinner service, and overall format and whatnot will be developed by the steering committee.
It's a Monday, October 19th.
Okay. So we got that. 3 hours and 20 minutes in. Thank you, everybody. I'll send that in the mail to everybody, and Todd, can you and I work together to get the minutes pulled together? I'll get the audio converted and stuff and send the file over to you. Because like Kevin wasn't here, I want to get him this stuff because we covered a lot of territory tonight. But also to some of the people on the steering committee have been asking for meeting minutes right away once they're ready, so they know what we talked about tonight.
Do they know they can listen to it?
Yeah.
They don't want to listen to it?
They want minutes. I know. All right, so if nothing further on scheduling meetings, we've got plenty scheduled, and we can schedule more as need be. If nothing further, we'll move on to public input and other. Any comments?
Not until you turn that off.
There wasn't anything on public input or other. I heard a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Art and Bruce to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No one opposed. Any abstain? Thank you, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next time.